Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto Fell for Yugito? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The caretaker of the orphanage kicked the little blonde-haired boy with blue eyes out the door, spat, and slammed it shut while shouting that he was not to return and calling him a demon. The boy, only 5 years old, sobbed as he left. He had been treated worse than garbage at the orphanage, and the abuse had been worse on his birthday. He could only cry and wonder what he had done to deserve it. He hurried into a nearby alley in search of food or something to keep him warm through the cold night. Shisui Uchiha was returning from a long mission. The operation had gone well, and although his work with the ANBU could be exhausting, he did it to protect the village. On his way to the Hokage's office, he spotted the same blonde child being assaulted by villagers. Shisui's temper flared. He moved to help without hesitation. Something streaked past at incredible speed, striking the attackers and sending them sprawling and unconscious across the ground in an almost surreal high-speed burst. When Shisui reached the child, he saw a small boy with pale skin, 3 whisker-like marks on his cheeks, and clothing in tatters. The boy clutched his left eye in pain and fear. The boy, trembling, asked if Shisui would not hurt him. Shisui assured him he would not and removed his ANBU mask, revealing his black hair and deep dark eyes and the Uchiha crest on his back. Shisui introduced himself and asked the child's name. The boy stammered that his name was Naruto Uzumaki. Shisui felt a shock of recognition at the boy's strong resemblance to the 4th Hokage and realized that Naruto might be the 4th son and the host of the 9 Tails. He suspected the orphanage had discarded him. Rage rose in him. He wanted to raise the orphanage and make those people answer for what they had done, but he forced himself to calm down and instead brought Naruto to his home to tend his wounds. At Shisui's house, he found that many of Naruto's injuries appeared to have closed on their own, perhaps influenced by the 9 Tails' power, but his left eye was badly damaged and could not be saved. Shisui placed an eye patch over it and gave the boy fresh clothes. Naruto took a bath to wash away the grime and sat quietly while Shisui prepared a modest meal. After eating, Naruto fell asleep. For safety, Shisui cast a protective sealing technique around the house before leaving to report to the Hokage. In the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi muttered about paperwork and the complications caused by the 4th Hokage's death. Shisui returned and knelt before him in his ANBU attire. Hiruzen told him to drop the formalities. Shisui removed his mask and told Hiruzen he needed to speak about the child who was host to the 9 Tails. A privacy seal activated within the office so they could speak without interruption. Shisui explained that on his return from the mission he had found the boy being beaten by villagers, had rescued him, and had taken him home. He reported that the child had lost his left eye. Hiruzen asked if the villagers had already thrown the boy out. Shisui asked Hiruzen for a favor. Hiruzen wanted to know what it was. Shisui said he wanted Naruto to be his student. Hiruzen agreed, telling Shisui that he was one of his most trusted Umbu and a good friend, and that he knew Shisui would look after Naruto well. Shisui explained that Naruto was at his house sleeping and that he wanted to care for him and make him strong so he could protect himself while Jiraiya was away from the village. Hiruzen admitted he also had little time for Naruto and that Jiraiya was tied up with his network of spies. Shisui assured the Hokage that he would treat Naruto like a younger brother. 2 weeks passed since Shisui Uchiha had rescued Naruto. Shisui, a prodigy of the Uchiha clan, had struggled to socialize after the hardships he suffered in the orphanage. The Umbu who watched over Naruto included Kakashi, Yugao, Shisui, and Itachi. They protected him from the villagers. Naruto also became acquainted with Kurenai, Anko, Guy, Asuma, and Hayate. Once, when Guy had looked after him, Guy had joked about the flames of youth. The next day, Guy was found seriously injured in Konoha, and the villagers were careful not to encourage any reckless imitations. Naruto spent a great deal of time with Kakashi and slowly became a smaller version of his mentor, which, to most, was preferable to becoming another mini-Guy. When Shisui proposed training Naruto, the masked blonde boy brightened at the idea. Naruto expressed his excitement and readiness to train. Shisui confirmed that they would begin immediately. They went to the Forest of Death, where Itachi and Kakashi were waiting. Kakashi greeted Naruto, and Itachi asked if he was prepared. Naruto responded in his usual straightforward manner that he was. Shisui explained that they would first work on his physical abilities, chakra control, and ninjutsu. Itachi outlined the first task: 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 sit-ups, and 10 laps around the forest. Naruto immediately began the exercises set by his older brothers. After 3 hours of hard work, he rested briefly and then began chakra training, starting with climbing a tree. At first the climb was difficult, but with perseverance he slowly made his way upward until, after several days, he reached the top. Kakashi then tested chakra affinity by holding a strip of paper between his fingers and focusing chakra to crumple it, demonstrating his lightning affinity. Itachi revealed affinities with fire, water, and lightning. Shisui listed fire, water, wind, and earth as his affinities. Naruto focused his chakra and managed to split the paper so that one part burned and another crumpled, showing a promising range. They taught him the shadow clone technique next. Naruto produced an impressive number of clones, many practicing physical exercises while the others worked on elemental jutsu. Over the following weeks his progress accelerated. He reached the level of an advanced genin. A year passed with Naruto training under the care of his older brothers. Each day he grew more like Kakashi, even reading the same romance novels in secret to avoid teasing from his mentors. Jiraiya watched Naruto with pride, seeing him as something close to a son. Where he had failed to win over others, Naruto had accepted his influence in small, harmless ways. One day Naruto found himself in an unfamiliar place filled with pipes. He stood before a huge cage bearing a seal. From the darkness inside, a pair of red, slitted eyes watched him with an intense, hostile glare. Naruto wondered aloud where he was. He greeted the presence calmly. He remembered that Jiraiya had explained why many people feared or resented him. The nine-tailed beast sealed within him had attacked the village years earlier. Naruto did not carry hate in his heart. He assumed there were reasons behind the beast's actions. The creature within the cage, the tailed beast that Naruto called Kibit, remarked that its jailer had finally come to visit. Naruto ignored the remark and continued to read a book with an orange cover, keeping a composed expression. Kibit reacted with outrage at being ignored, roaring and whipping its 9 tails. The cage shook and the ground trembled, but no graphic harm was shown, only a display of raw power and a tense atmosphere. Kibit revealed its massive, fox-like form and glared at Naruto with burning eyes. Naruto, unfazed, noted that the beast was noisy and interrupted his reading only slightly. Kibit lashed out again, furious at being dismissed and demanding to know who Naruto thought he was speaking to, the tailed beast shouting with overwhelming presence and anger. The 9-tailed Bijou thundered that the most powerful creature in the world should be grateful to be its host. Naruto asked, serious, how such a powerful being had ended up inside a child, setting aside his book to look at the Bijou for an answer. The Bijou scoffed and told him that it was none of his concern. Naruto frowned with restrained anger and cursed the scarecrow for trying to intimidate him. If it had been anyone else in his place, they would have been trembling with fear at the sight of the most powerful Bijou, yet the boy ignored the creature while absorbed in his reading. The Bijou swore quietly at his guardian for letting the boy have those books. It could not understand why the child showed neither fear nor a trace of hatred, and it found the boy's attitude astonishing. Naruto then asked what the Bijou's real name was. The Bijou repeated that it was none of his business. Naruto suggested that the name must be a nickname given by humans. The Bijou admitted, with a hint of surprise, that the boy was not as foolish as it had thought. Naruto retorted that the Bijou was not as ugly as it claimed. The Bijou angrily shouted the boy's nickname. When Naruto asked why the Bijou had attacked the village, the Bijou again dismissed him, but Naruto argued that attacking the village only to be resealed made no sense. If it were him, he would have tried to escape and be free, even if there was a risk of later being controlled. The Bijou reflected that it only remembered seeing the Sharingan before waking up inside Naruto. The Bijou said that the one with the Sharingan called himself Madara Uchiha, and Naruto concluded that the man must be an imposter. As they parted, The bijou finally revealed his true name, Kurama. A year passed since Naruto met Kurama and they became friends. Jiraiya rejoiced at the news and began training Naruto, teaching him the Rasengan and the Hiraishin no Jutsu. Lately, however, Jiraiya had been unusually serious. Naruto noticed his father's mood and asked what was wrong. Jiraiya answered that it was something serious that involved not only Naruto but all the Jinchuriki. When Naruto pressed for details, Jiraiya said he had to go check on his network and that he would explain everything when he returned. Naruto agreed and told him to be careful. Jiraiya tousled Naruto's hair with a smile and promised that afterwards they would have a good bowl of ramen together. He left with a heavy feeling that the future might hold troubles. In class, Iruka scolded Naruto to pay attention. Naruto had been staring out the window, distracted. He felt uneasy about Itachi and Shisui, who had been distant and busier than before, and even Mikoto had seemed strange. Whenever Naruto saw Itachi and Shisui, they had told him that they were sorry but busy. The negative feelings coming from the Uchiha clan worried him, though Shisui and Itachi felt different from the rest. Iruka repeated his call for attention, more tired than angry. Naruto was Iruka's best student, but his laid-back attitude reminded Iruka of someone else and exasperated him. Naruto's thoughts drifted to Kurama, and the bijou agreed with Naruto's unease about the Uchiha and about his father's warning. When the bell rang, everyone left the classroom to meet their parents. Outside, Kakashi sat in the shade of a tree reading a small, orange-covered book. He wore his Jounin vest and had left the ANBU to spend more time with his younger brother. Kakashi greeted Naruto, and Naruto returned the greeting with a small wave. Kakashi then asked if something was wrong. "I notice you're distracted." Naruto told Kakashi that his father had been very serious that morning and that he had a bad feeling about something. Kakashi agreed that he also felt uneasy and suggested they go for ramen. Kakashi smiled under his mask and took Naruto to Ichiraka Ramen. After they ate, Kakashi and Naruto spent some time together, and when night fell Naruto returned to his apartment to rest. Itachi entered through the window and informed Naruto that Shisui wanted to see him. Naruto was surprised to see Itachi at his window and followed him. They went into the forest and found Shisui standing on a cliff, missing his right eye. Naruto was shocked by Shisui's condition. Shisui explained that he had been unable to stop the planned coup. He said the Uchiha had wanted to use the Nine Tails as part of their scheme, and that he had tried to use Kotoamatsukami to prevent it, but Danzo had taken his right eye. Naruto asked if there was nothing else they could do. Shisui and Itachi answered silently, and Shisui moved closer to Naruto to remove his eye patch, placing his fingers briefly on Naruto's forehead. Shisui apologized that he could not be there to see Naruto become Hokage and to watch him grow as a shinobi, but he promised that he would see everything Naruto would see through the Sharingan and entrusted his eye to him. He smiled and transplanted his left eye into Naruto's empty socket. Naruto whispered Shisui's name weakly as Shisui turned away and walked toward the edge of the cliff. Shisui told Itachi to protect Konoha and urged Naruto to fulfill his dream, saying he trusted him and asking them not to try to stop him. Shisui then jumped from the cliff, and Naruto and Itachi called out in horror. Itachi declared that he would eliminate the Uchiha clan, leaving only Sasuke alive. A week later, Itachi carried out the attack on the Uchiha clan. A swift and tragic event that left Sasuke as the only survivor. Only Kakashi and Jiraiya knew that Naruto now possessed a Sharingan. Kakashi asked Naruto how that had happened. Naruto told them that Shisui had given him the eye before he took his own life. Kakashi expressed sympathy. Jiraiya then informed them that they would be traveling to the village hidden in the clouds. Kurama grew uneasy at the mention of Matatabi, and Naruto playfully teased him about being afraid of his younger counterpart. Kurama replied that Naruto did not truly know Matatabi and that memories from their early days made him uncomfortable. Naruto continued to process the recent events, carrying Shisui's gift and the weight of what had happened to the Uchiha as his life moved forward. Someone teased Kurama by saying he looked like a scared puppy. Kurama retorted that, among the nine-tailed beasts, she was the most fearsome. Naruto asked why they were going to the village hidden in the clouds. Jiraiya explained that Naruto needed to learn to control the Kyuubi's power as soon as possible. Jiraiya said that Killer Bee, the Raikage's younger brother who had complete mastery of his Biju, lived there, as did Yugito Nii, the Jinchuriki of the Two Tails, and that Naruto would get along with her. Jiraiya added that Kakashi would also come to help Naruto train with the Sharingan. Naruto asked why he had to learn to use Kurama's power. Jiraiya answered that a criminal organization called Akatsuki had been capturing Jinchuriki and already taken the Four Tails and the Five Tails. He warned that their intentions were not good and that Naruto must be prepared so the Akatsuki could not take the Kyuubi. Jiraiya said they would leave in 2 hours and told them to prepare. Kakashi agreed, and the two vanished to their homes to pack. Naruto gathered what he needed: a katana, a roll of sealing tools, food, spare clothes, and some personal items. Once ready, he slung on his backpack and went to Konoha's gate. 2 hours later they departed for the village hidden in the clouds. Kakashi and Naruto read identical training notes. Anyone watching might have thought they looked like father and son. Jiraiya watched with pride, while, in the afterlife, Kushina scolded Jiraiya and Kakashi for their influence on Naruto. Minato felt both proud and a little wistful. The 2-week journey to the clouds was long. Along the way, Jiraiya taught Naruto a few jutsu and the summoning technique, including crow summoning. Kurama taught the fox summoning. Kakashi instructed him in handling the Sharingan, which was difficult to control, and he began training with Shisui's signature technique. When they arrived, village guards challenged them at the gate. Jiraiya introduced himself, said that the boy with him was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and identified Kakashi. The guards replied that Raikage-sama had been expecting them. One guard, noticing that both Naruto and Kakashi wore masks and held identical training notes, asked if Kakashi might be Naruto's father. Kakashi replied that he was not his father but cared for Naruto like a son. Jiraiya told Naruto that they would go see the Raikage. Naruto ignored his father and Kakashi and walked on, absorbed in thought. Kakashi, tearful in an over-the-top anime way, remarked that Naruto filled him with pride. Naruto bumped into someone and fell. The other person scolded him to watch where he was going. Naruto apologized, picked up his notes, and helped the person to her feet. The girl was a blonde with deep dark eyes, wearing dark blue pants, shinobi sandals, and a navy and white shirt, her hair tied in a ponytail. Naruto offered his hand. She hesitated a moment and then accepted, causing both of them to feel an unexpected spark of recognition. They introduced themselves, Naruto Uzumaki and Yugito Nii. For an instant, their shared chakra space flickered with darkness. A female voice shouted Karakuen, and a blue, two-tailed cat-like Biju hugged its Jinchuriki tightly, causing Kurama to call for help. Yugito, impressed, asked Naruto if he was a Jinchuriki. Naruto nodded. Kurama cried out for assistance as the two-tailed Nikomata's embrace pulled at the edges of their shared mental space. Naruto ignored the commotion to speak with Yugito. She asked what he was doing here. Naruto said simply that he had gotten lost along the way. The Biju's cries faded as the pair were pulled back into reality. Naruto said he was looking for the Raikage's office. Yugito offered to take him, since she also needed to see the Raikage. The two Jinchuriki set off together, talking amicably about their lives. Later, Yugito asked why Naruto wore a mask. Naruto replied that he liked it. Yugito asked what he hid beneath it, and Naruto said he would show her when they knew each other better. They reached the Raikage's office. Inside, a tanned, blonde man was speaking with Jiraiya and Kakashi. Conversation paused as they all turned to regard the two Jinchuriki. Naruto and Yugito greeted the Raikage. Jiraiya introduced himself as Jiraiya the Gallant, and Kakashi identified himself as Kakashi Hataki. The Raikage acknowledged Yugito's arrival and noted that she had brought the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Naruto introduced himself as Naruto Uzumaki. The Raikage said he was glad to meet him and asked if B was around. Yugito reported that B had said he was going to look for inspiration for his new songs. The Raikage reacted with exasperation at B's absent-mindedness. The Raikage burst into the room, furious, announcing that Akatsuki were after the Jinchuriki and that one of them had slipped out of the village again to chase his DMN songs. He smashed the table and stormed through the wall in search of his idiot brother. Kakashi asked if they should stop him. Yugito answered that they should leave it. This happened all the time and he would be back in a couple of hours. Jiraiya said he would go investigate with a laugh, and Kakashi said he would follow. They left the Raikage's office, leaving only the Jinchuriki behind. Yugito, confused, asked what Jiraiya meant by investigation. Naruto, absorbed in an orange-covered book, looked up annoyed and asked if she had said something. Yugito spoke in a low voice, took the book from him, set it alight in blue flames, and swiped with her claws. Naruto cursed when she struck him. He was hurt but recovered thanks to Kurama's chakra. One thing was clear: never ignore Yugito, and never read Ika Ika Paradise in front of her. Naruto asked where they should go first and used the nickname that made Yugito flush. Yugito, embarrassed, looked away and said they should eat sushi. Naruto thought she looked cute when she blushed and agreed. Yugito led him to a sushi shop where the owner greeted them kindly. Naruto observed that the owner genuinely cared for Yugito. He remembered that the first place in Konoha to accept him had been Ichiraka Ramen, and that the Akimichi family restaurant had also sheltered him. Choji's mother had been kind when he fled the villagers, giving him food and shelter despite his inability to pay, and he remained forever grateful. Yugito said quietly that the owner was one of the few people who could tell Matatabi and her apart. She added with sadness that villagers rarely harmed her out of fear of the Raikage, who treated Yugito like an adopted niece and would become furious if anyone hurt her. She admitted that B could be an idiot but that he always looked out for her. Naruto told her that in some ways she was lucky. Yugito asked why, and Naruto explained that, despite having Jiraiya and Kakashi watching over him, he had been hunted as the so-called demon child. He said he had lost his left eye when he was expelled from the orphanage and had lost the older brother who had once saved him. The first places that accepted him had meant everything. Yugito expressed sympathy, unable to imagine losing a brother. Naruto said that despite it all he was happy because he had many reasons to become stronger: Oto, Kakashi, his older siblings, the people at Ichiraka Ramen, and Yugito. Those words made Yugito blush. His sincerity filled her with a warmth and sense of protection she had never known. The sushi shop owner brought 2 plates and stepped back to watch the 2 Jinchuriki from a distance. Yugito asked Naruto to tell her what Konoha was like as she ate a little sushi. Naruto began to describe the village of Konoha. Konoha, as I like to say, is a fairly large and very beautiful village. It was a pity that it was full of hypocrites and people who only wanted power because of their foolish ambition. Aside from that, there were many good people who cared about me and could tell the difference between Naruto and the Kyuubi. The 3rd Hokage was my adoptive grandfather, the oldest and wisest person I knew, and the view from the Hokage mountain was beautiful. Yugito mentioned that she would like to see that beautiful view someday. Naruto promised that he would show her, eager and determined. Yugito joked that he had better or she would turn him into sushi, and Matatabi extended her claws in mock threat, which made everyone a little nervous. Naruto decided that he should never anger Yugito and wondered aloud why no Kage used shadow clones to finish paperwork faster. Yugito agreed and laughed at the image of exhausted leaders tossing desks in frustration when more piles of reports kept arriving. They spent the afternoon talking and laughing. Yugito tried to watch Naruto eat while he wore his mask, but Naruto used a trick he had learned to eat his sushi without Yugito seeing his face. Kurama, meanwhile, was occupied elsewhere. Rosa invited them to her sushi shop. Yugito thanked her politely and Rosa welcomed her, reminding Yugito that she would always be welcome. Naruto complimented the sushi, which seemed to unsettle Rosa a little. Rosa leaned in and teasingly told Naruto that he should take his chance with Yugito before someone else did. Yugito blushed deeply at the remark, and Rosa laughed softly before returning to work. Naruto thought to himself that Yugito looked very cute when she blushed. Yugito, flustered, urged Naruto to leave because Raikage-sama should have returned with B already. Both Naruto and Yugito were clearly embarrassed when they used honorifics by accident, and Rosa amusedly took a photo of the moment to hang up as a memory. Later, a teammate returned to the village dragging B after a rough encounter. He had given B a stern beating to bring him back under control and joked that next time he might treat him like a training partner. B agreed to join Naruto's training and asked how he and the Kyuubi got along. Naruto said they were friends, which surprised some, but Kurama noted that Naruto had something special. Over the next 5 years, training was intense. At first, Naruto struggled to master Kurama's chakra, but he gradually became accustomed to the tailed beast's power. Kakashi taught Naruto to use the Sharingan, and Kurama helped him understand more advanced ocular techniques. Despite Kurama's complicated history with the Uchiha and the Sharingan, Kurama appreciated Shisui, who had taken good care of his Jinchuriki and shared a signature technique that proved useful. Thanks to the Sharingan, Naruto gained better control over Kurama's chakra and learned not to lose himself. Yugito, for her part, developed excellent control over Matatabi's chakra. Matatabi taught her how to manipulate fire, including advanced blue flame techniques, and granted her a contract with feline companions. Both Naruto and Yugito learned Kenjutsu. Kurama taught a sword style influenced by the Uzumaki, and Yugito benefited from similar training. Jiraiya instructed them in sealing techniques, and Naruto used shadow clones to speed his learning. Kakashi taught Naruto the Chidori, which could be combined with the Sharingan, and Jiraiya taught Yugito the Rasengan. Over time, Naruto and Yugito's feelings for each other grew, but Naruto's resemblance to his father, Minato, made him notably popular in the village. He became one of Kumo's most admired genin, attracting a fan club that Yugito often chased away because she cared for him quietly. Naruto, oblivious and a bit distracted with training, did not always notice Yugito's attention. They shared many private moments that were frequently interrupted by Jiraiya or their teammates. On returning from a mission, Karui finally declared that the mission was over, and Samui suggested they report back to Reikage-sama. Naruto admitted that he had been hoping to get ramen. Karui scolded Naruto for being childish and told him to put away the lewd book he kept reading. Yugito intervened, asking both of them to stop and calm down. Yugito scolded Naruto to stop reading that demad perverted book. Naruto replied that she did not know how to appreciate true literature. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki answered without lifting his gaze from his book. Yugito sighed. She would never stop teasing him, but she did not mind, and her teasing often distracted him. After reporting at the Reigate Tower, they went to a sushi restaurant because Yugito was returning to Konoha. Naruto said goodbye to Yugito, and Yugito returned his farewell. Naruto told her they would see each other at the Chunin exams. Yugito approached the younger Naruto and gave him a friendly kiss on the cheek. Jiraiya and Naruto then turned to head back to Konoha. Yugito promised that when they met again at the Chunin exams she would tell him how she felt. Father and son stood near the gates of Konoha. Jiraiya felt proud of his son not only for reading his works but for how strong he had become in 5 years. Kotetsu and Izumo noticed them and called out in surprise. Jiraiya greeted them. Kotetsu offered a polite greeting to Jiraiya and Naruto, but Naruto ignored the guards and walked on, leaving the others with an exasperated expression. Jiraiya commented that the brat was the same as always. Kotetsu remarked that Naruto spent too much time with Kakashi, and Izumo agreed. Jiraiya said he was going to see his teacher and passed through the gate while Naruto wandered off. Kakashi greeted Naruto and asked how it had gone. Naruto said it had gone well, and Kakashi answered that things were as usual. Both ninja then walked off in their own directions. In the Hokage's office, Jiraiya entered through the window and called out a greeting. Tsunade retorted about being called old. The chair turned to reveal a familiar blonde with a confident smile and a dark-haired woman who seemed distracted by thoughts of a certain silver-haired person known for getting lost in his own world. Jiraiya expressed surprise that Tsunade had returned to Konoha and become Hokage after what had happened with Dan and Kawaki. Tsunade said she had changed her mind and asked where Naruto was. When he returned, he reported that Naruto had gone to Kumo to train. Jiraiya grew nervous. 2 of the ninja clones entered, both reading a book with a red cover. Kakashi and Naruto greeted in unison, which made the blonde woman with a strong presence flare a vein on her forehead. Tsunade already had her hands full and did not need another nuisance. Tsunade struck Jiraiya in a furious outburst that sent him stumbling into the hot springs. The other women drew their weapons and unleashed a fierce, comical assault that left Jiraiya bruised and thoroughly chastened. The scene was more slapstick than lethal. Tsunade introduced herself as the 5th Hokage, Tsunade Senju. Shizun was introduced as Shizun. Naruto explained that his father had mentioned Tsunade, and he greeted Shizune politely. Tsunade asked Naruto what progress he had made during his stay in Kumo. Naruto explained that he had gotten along with the Nine Tails and had learned to control aspects of his power better, improving his control over the Nine Tails' energy and managing up to 4 tails with difficulty. Kakashi seized a chance to tease his younger brother. Kakashi hinted at Naruto's relationship with Yugito, deliberately making Naruto blush. Kakashi flashed a smirk and took a few photos of Naruto and Yugito in moments of privacy, which annoyed Naruto. Tsunade teased that Naruto had good taste for befriending the host of the Two Tails, and Shizune looked amused. Embarrassed, Naruto told them to stop and left for his apartment to rest, using a wind body flicker technique to disappear while thinking about how to get back at Kakashi. Tsunade commented that it would be fun to tease him about it. Shizune blushed and invited Kakashi to go out for a walk. Kakashi agreed, and Shizune warned that she would confiscate and destroy his perverted book collection if he showed it again. A certain young copy of a ninja followed them from a distance, taking photos with a camera and plotting his revenge against his older brother. Kurama commented that taking photos was certainly a way to settle a score. Naruto told Kurama to be quiet because that had been a secret. Kurama teased that it was no secret that Naruto slept with a Yugito plush, which made Naruto even redder. Naruto reacted strongly and used golden chakra chains to bind Kurama tightly, causing the tailed beast to complain loudly. After making the photos of his brother's date, the young ninja copy went to his apartment to sleep, knowing tomorrow would be a very long day. At the academy, a pink-haired girl and a moody boy with a distinctive haircut waited for their sensei and their new teammate, whom they did not yet know. Sakura grew increasingly impatient after 4 hours of waiting. Sasuke told her to be quiet, assuming their late arrivals were elite shinobi. The door opened to reveal Kakashi Hatake reading his cherished red-covered novel, followed by Naruto Uzumaki, who also had his nose in a copy of the same book and paid little attention to his teammates. Sakura internally panicked at the sight, while Sasuke wondered if they were father and son. Kakashi introduced himself as the team sensei and named Naruto as the new teammate, who continued reading without looking up. Kurama grumbled about Naruto constantly reading those novels. Naruto and Kurama exchanged barbs. Kurama muttered an embarrassing remark about a past encounter that made Naruto flush and briefly attempt to silence the tailed beast by binding him with golden chakra chains, which caused Kurama to protest until he fainted from annoyance rather than injury. Naruto released him and returned to normal, the book hiding his reddened face. Kakashi instructed them to go to the roof. The 3 genin climbed and sat on the steps, watching their sensei while Naruto kept reading. Kakashi asked them to say their names, likes, dislikes, and dreams. Kakashi said that he liked his books and that his dream was to publish his Ika Ika saga, an answer that left Sakura and Sasuke baffled. Naruto stated his name, that his likes and dislikes were personal, and that his dream was private. Sakura introduced herself as Sakura Haruno, admitted she had a crush on Sasuke, and blushed deeply. Sasuke inwardly bristled at her exuberant reaction but kept his composure. Naruto sympathized quietly with Sasuke, remembering how, during his time in Kumo, many women had been infatuated with him. The host of the Two Tails often frightened them off by being openly attached to the one-sided crush he tended to harbor. There had been uncomfortable incidents in the past, and Naruto kept those memories to himself. Sasuke introduced himself as Shisui Uchiha, said he enjoyed a few things, disliked the color pink and obsessive fans, and spent his time training and taking solitary walks. His dream was something he did not share. Itachi resolved that he would not let anyone kill Sasuke. He decided, with determination, to give himself the mission of protecting his younger brother and keeping him from a path of hatred and revenge. Kakashi told them he would see them the next morning at Training Field 7 at 5 in the morning and recommended they skip breakfast. He then vanished in a swirl of leaves alongside the blonde Uzumaki. Morning arrived in Konoha. A certain blonde, masked ninja woke to the bright rays of the sun, forcing him to open his eyes. He removed his mask, revealing 3 whisker-like marks on his cheeks and a faint smile. He looked in the mirror and examined the Sharingan in his eye, remembering Shisui and the gift that had been entrusted to him to protect the people he loved. He took a quick bath, dressed in his usual clothes, put on his mask and a forehead protector that covered the left eye holding the Sharingan, and then ate several bowls of ramen. Before leaving, he took a small photograph that showed Yugito, Samui, Karui, and Omoi. The photo showed Yugito smiling shyly beside him. He carefully tucked the picture into his kunai pouch. He left his apartment with his favorite paperback tucked under his arm and walked along the path toward the training field. Kakashi, walking ahead, greeted him. Kakashi mentioned he would meet them all there in the morning. Naruto replied that they had met a black cat and had to take the long way around, offering a light excuse for being late. Both masked ninjas laughed as they walked. At the training field, Sakura arrived furious, announcing that they were 4 hours late. Kakashi explained that he had only recommended they skip breakfast. Sakura reminded everyone that Kakashi had said not to eat, and Kakashi clarified it had been only a suggestion. Naruto admitted he had eaten, and Kakashi dismissed it with a wry remark. Kakashi produced 3 bells and explained that the team had until midday to take the bells from him. He instructed that they could use anything they wanted and then gave the order to begin. Sasuke and Sakura stepped aside, leaving Naruto to face Kakashi alone. Kakashi positioned himself for combat and assessed how much Naruto had improved. Naruto moved into a fighting stance, and the two launched into training. Naruto blocked Kakashi's opening strike with his hand and countered, but Kakashi held his arm and tried to regain control. Naruto managed a quick kick that forced the Jonin to step back. Kakashi acknowledged that Naruto had been training hard. Naruto returned the compliment, then attempted a wind-style technique. Kakashi responded with a fire-style technique. The two jutsus collided, creating a burst of smoke that obscured their movements. Sasuke and Sakura watched from the edge of the field, impressed by the display of speed and skill they could not fully see. Naruto followed with a large wind dragon formed in front of him that charged at Kakashi. Kakashi deflected it, and the blast tore through several trees. Naruto briefly vanished in a puff of smoke and then leapt into the air to avoid Kakashi's counter. Kakashi reminded Naruto that he had not forgotten he could sense chakra, and the two engaged in an intense taijutsu exchange in which Naruto displayed clear superiority in hand-to-hand combat. A powerful fire jutsu rose to strike Kakashi, who avoided it with a quick sidestep and then executed a sequence of hand seals, driving his palms into the ground. Kakashi created an earth-style wall to block the combined attacks, producing another cloud of smoke. When the dust settled, Sakura seized the moment to step forward and remove the bells from Kakashi's hands. Kakashi praised her action. Kakashi then assessed each of them. He noted that Naruto had attacked head-on despite knowing his teammates would not simply stand by, that Sasuke had set aside pride to help his companion, and that Sakura had used the confusion to take the bells. Kakashi announced that, from that moment, Team 7 was officially formed. Sakura reacted loudly in relief. Naruto returned to his usual easygoing pose, tucking his paperback away, while Sasuke kept his hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. The 3 young ninjas stood together, recognized as a team and ready to take on the challenges ahead. Naruto reported over the radio that the pervert from before was not at the location. Sakura, checking another site, reported that the target was not there either. Sasuke added that he still could not find the target, and Kakashi confirmed that their target was not present, signing off. Naruto set the radio down and looked down at Tora, the cat asleep on his lap. He thought about Yugito and how much she had loved cats, remembering the good times they had shared in the village of the clouds during missions and training. He pushed away a few confusing memories and closed his book to watch the cat. Naruto thought aloud that once they found the cat's owner he would return Tora. The cat meowed softly, and Naruto replied that he understood the cat's desire to escape. He stroked the cat, who blinked and drifted back to sleep. Sakura suddenly charged in, scolding loudly and startling Naruto. She reprimanded him for spending hours searching for the cat while Naruto had been sitting there with it. Naruto tried to calm Sakura down and gently picked up Tora to take the cat back to the Hokage's office. The owner hugged the cat tightly on receiving him, and the scene ended with the cat restless and then settling. Tsunade acknowledged that they had completed the mission and announced the next assignment. Naruto protested to be treated like an adult and asked for more serious missions. Shizune protested the interruption, and Tsunade dismissed her complaints and allowed the bridge builder to enter. Tazuna appeared, carrying a bottle of sake. He looked at the young ninjas and asked if those were the team assigned to escort him, remarking on one girl, one somber boy, and two who looked alike. Tsunade confirmed they were the correct escort. Shizune explained that Tazuna was a bridge builder who needed safe passage to the Land of Waves. Kakashi told the team they would meet at Konoha's gate in 2 hours. Everyone dispersed to prepare. Naruto lingered, talking with Shizune, while a shadow clone of him spied on them and recorded their conversation. Kurama, the demon fox within Naruto, teased the clone about wasting time, and the clone muttered about planning revenge on Kakashi over some past prank. Kurama made a teasing remark and then chakra chains surged through the clone, forcing him back into unconsciousness. Naruto packed his things and headed off. Kakashi asked what they should tell others about their delay, and both Naruto and Kakashi agreed they would say they had helped an old woman along the way. The clones made their return on that story, and the team set off to escort Tazuna. As Team 7 escorted the bridge builder, Kakashi and Naruto read their books while Sasuke brooded over the situation and Sakura kept up a steady stream of complaints. Tazuna seemed lost in thought. Suddenly, 2 rogue Chunin appeared from a puddle and lunged at them. One managed to snare Kakashi with a chain, holding him back. Sasuke sprang into action and launched a precise kick that sent his opponent stumbling. Sasuke then leapt atop him and knocked the man out with a decisive strike. Naruto dove forward and struck another aggressor, leaving him unconscious on the ground. The fight moved quickly and cleanly, executed like a fast-paced anime battle, with no lingering injury details. Once the attackers were subdued, Kakashi asked Tazuna why he had not been truthful about something. Tazuna sighed and began to explain the truth about his situation. Naruto and Kurama exchanged remarks about the reward for the mission, hoping it would be enough to buy a gift for someone special. Kurama teased Naruto about an embarrassing secret, and Naruto became briefly flustered. In the Land of Clouds, Yugito sneezed and reflected with a teasing tone about missing Naruto, looking forward to seeing him again during the upcoming exams. Her tailed beast, Matatabi, echoed the anticipation in a playful way. They both agreed they were eager to meet again at the Chunin exams. Back with Team 7, Kakashi issued a warning as someone observed a figure approaching with a sword. Naruto's attention was on his book until Kakashi shouted for everyone to take cover. A blade cut through the air toward Tazuna, but Naruto reacted quickly and pushed Tazuna to safety, then turned to face the new threat. The figure revealed himself as a swordsman from the hidden mist. Kakashi stepped forward and activated his Sharingan, preparing for the confrontation. The swordsman recognized Kakashi and the reputation that preceded him. Kakashi acknowledged the swordsman and then spoke admiringly of his young companion Naruto, noting that Naruto's strength could surprise many. The group braced themselves as the misty swordsman steadied his stance, the tension building like the calm before a storm. The escort mission had just become far more dangerous, and Team 7 readied themselves for the challenge ahead. Someone asked Kakashi if the blonde boy might be his son. Kakashi said he wished that were true, speaking with pride as he looked at Naruto, which made everyone and Kurama react with a drop of sweat. Naruto, however, kept reading his favorite romance novel and ignored them. Zabuza activated the hidden mist style, and a dense fog rolled across the area, allowing the mist-cloaked ninja to vanish. A Naruto clone grabbed a kunai and managed to block the demon of the mist sword. Zabuza wondered aloud how he had been detected. Naruto explained that he was a censor. Kakashi stepped forward and declared that Zabuza's fight was against him, and the mist demon charged. Kakashi collided with Zabuza, clashing his kunai against the sword. They separated, then began walking across the water to face one another. Both of them formed water dragon techniques at the same time. The two dragons collided in a huge burst of water. They stared each other down and exchanged a rapid series of water jutsu. Zabuza dissolved into water and suddenly found himself trapped in a prison of water. The other water clones watched as the genin and the bridge builders stood by. Naruto announced that it was his turn. Sakura scolded him, warning that he was being foolish because Zabuza had overpowered Kakashi-sensei so easily. Naruto asked Sakura what she thought he had been doing during the 6 years away from the village, insisting that, unlike her, he had not wasted his time harassing Sasuke. He closed his orange-covered book, set himself in front of Zabuza's clones, and said he expected a fight. Zabuza judged the kid as overly confident for his age. The Naruto clone said nothing and drew 2 trikunais. The clones of Zabuza launched themselves at the Uzumaki with intent to kill. The clone blocked their attacks with skill, then disappeared in a flash of yellow to reappear behind Zabuza and strike him hard in the back, sending him crashing into some trees and freeing Kakashi. Kakashi acknowledged that, if he had not had the sensei's kunai, he would be dead. Naruto told Kakashi that Zabuza was his, and ordered him to take the defeated ones to Tazuna's house. Kakashi agreed and warned everyone to be careful. He covered his Sharingan eye to escort the genin and Tazuna to Tazuna's home. Zabuza told Naruto that it was just the 2 of them now. Naruto asked that an ANBU not get in the way of the fight, clarifying that he did not intend to kill him. An ANBU was surprised to be discovered so easily. A Naruto clone was behind him with a kunai at his neck. The ANBU admitted being discovered, and the clone introduced himself politely, addressing the ANBU as a lady. The ANBU blushed at the compliment, surprised at how easily he had been found. When asked who she was, the ANBU answered Haku Yuhi. The Naruto clone withdrew the kunai and stowed it away. Haku removed her mask, revealing a calm, pretty face. Haku asked Naruto what he wanted to talk about. The clone made clear that he was interested in someone else and wanted to negotiate, which made Haku flustered in a quiet, shy way. Meanwhile, the original Naruto and the mist-cloaked swordsman were locked in a nearly even battle. Zabuza admitted that the boy did not fight badly. Naruto replied that he was not even using all his power. Zabuza wondered what else the boy might be hiding, acknowledging that Naruto was a good opponent. Naruto thanked him in turn. They charged again, swords clashing in an intense kenjutsu exchange, the fight dynamic and fierce like an action scene from a dramatic animation. After a long fight with the mist demon, Haku tended to the wounded Zabuza and left with him. Naruto went to Tazuna's house, where a kind woman named Tsunami greeted him. Tsunami assumed he must be Naruto, and Naruto confirmed that he was. She smacked him lightly with a frying pan and scolded him for making them all worry, then let him inside. Kakashi checked on Naruto and observed that he seemed fine. Naruto insisted that someone like Zabuza could not defeat him. Sasuke told Dobe that he would be the one to defeat Naruto, which Naruto ignored while reading his romance novel. He told Kakashi that they had a week to train and return stronger. When Kakashi asked what he would do, Naruto said he would train to master his new technique, though he was not entirely truthful. After eating, Kakashi took them into the forest to teach them how to climb trees. The Naruto clone stayed behind reading his novel while waiting for Haku. Haku asked if he actually liked that kind of book. The clone suggested Haku read the celebrated works of Jiraiya first before criticizing. Haku waved it off and told Naruto that it was time to go, and the pair left together with Kakashi following. Zabuza noticed Haku had returned, and Naruto greeted them. Zabuza snapped at Naruto, calling him a scarecrow and asking what he was doing there. Naruto repeated that he was there to negotiate. Haku told Zabuza to calm down and said that Naruto had only come to discuss terms. Zabuza leaned against a wall, surprised that the blonde had fought so well and was interested to hear what he had to say. Naruto proposed making a deal to avoid needless killing. Zabuza asked what kind of deal Naruto had in mind. Naruto said first he wanted to know how the mist demon had come to work for someone like Gato. Zabuza explained that he had tried to kill the Mizukage, Yagura, who suddenly went mad and began killing those who possessed Kekkai Genkai. Haku was the last survivor of his clan but had been wounded and had to flee. Zabuza was collecting money to help Kiri during the Civil War. Naruto swore vengeance at Madara for the manipulation and destruction. Kurama remarked that he had mentioned it earlier. Naruto said not to worry, he would take care of it. Zabuza asked what he meant. Naruto explained that during his stay in Kumo, one mission had been to assist Kiri in the Civil War, and that Yagura had been manipulated by the same person who had attacked his village 13 years ago. Zabuza repeated the word manipulated, seeking confirmation. They wondered how one could manipulate a perfect Jinchuriki. Naruto explained that he had first placed the Biju under a Genjutsu and then the Jinchuriki himself. Naruto lifted his forehead protector to reveal his Sharingan, which shifted into the Mangekyo Sharingan. Zabuza reacted with astonishment, stating that only Shisui Uchiha had possessed eyes like those and that he could not believe such a youth would have Shisui's eye. Zabuza spoke in disbelief about Shisui's suicide and the improbability of the situation. Naruto explained that Shisui had given him the eye before he died. Naruto stated that he was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and that Shisui had warned him the chakra of another tailed beast was altered. To prevent the release of the three tails, Naruto said he had used Kodo Amatsukami 3 years ago and that he could only use that technique once every 10 years. He added that he had revealed the truth about Yagura being controlled by the masked man, that this revelation had earned gratitude from another Jinchuriki, and that Meitorumi was now the Mizukichi. Naruto covered his Sharingan, leaving Zabuza and Haku deep in thought. Zabuza expressed pity for the village to have Mei as Mizukichi and asked what they were expected to do next. Naruto outlined a plan to fake a fight on the bridge in 1 week. When Gato arrived, they would ambush and kill him, splitting the spoils 50-50 between them and the Land of Waves, and forming an alliance between Kirigakure, the Land of Waves, and Konoha. Zabuza agreed to the plan and the two shook hands. As they sealed the agreement, Zabuza felt a crimson chakra race through his body, rapidly healing his wounds. Zabuza asked what Naruto had done. Naruto said he had healed him with the Kyuubi's chakra and asked Zabuza to tell Mei that Naruto Uzumaki sent his greetings. Zabuza agreed to deliver the message. Kurama warned that Meitorumi should be careful and reminded them of what had happened the last time. Naruto replied that he did not want to be reminded. It was a new day in the Land of Waves. The small copy of the ninja rose from the grass and took in the ruined surroundings. He had overdone his training. He reached for his orange-covered book and allowed himself to get lost once more in the path of life, then went out to help an elderly woman. Tsunami hoped they were all right, then sighed and returned to her chores. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She had been expecting Naruto, who had not returned since yesterday. Kakashi had assured her that Naruto was fine. When she opened the door, 2 mercenaries appeared, and the woman they had been holding lay unconscious inside. Inari rushed down the stairs and demanded that the mercenaries release his mother. The mercenaries only laughed. Naruto arrived at the scene and ordered the mercenaries to release Tsunami. One mercenary threatened to kill them if anyone stepped forward. Naruto activated his Sharingan. The mercenaries were incapacitated by a powerful genjutsu and collapsed without further struggle. Inari watched in astonishment. Naruto told Inari to take his mother into the house and promised he would be all right, reminding him of a promise he had made. He managed a small smile, then melted into a flock of crows and vanished. On a nearby bridge, fierce battles unfolded in an energetic, anime-style clash. Haku faced the last Uchiha in a rapid exchange of strikes and defenses that left both fighters pushed to their limits, but no graphic injuries were shown, only the intensity of the combat. Sasuke hissed in frustration at the stalemate and called out for backup. Haku observed Naruto from afar, noting the blonde-masked ninja's speed, skill, and unwavering confidence, and felt a mix of admiration and unease. Far away in Kumo, Yugito sneezed and thought that someone must be talking about her. She moved through her small room, gathering scrolls and personal mementos she had kept. She smiled to herself and whispered that soon Naruto would be hers in a quiet, determined way, then packed her things and hummed lightly as she prepared to meet her teammates. Back on the bridge, Haku launched a flurry of Senbon at the remaining Uchiha. The fight grew intense, but it remained a fast-paced exchange of skill and technique rather than anything graphic. A smoke bomb erupted in the middle of the combat, and Naruto appeared, apologizing for his late arrival and explaining in a nonchalant tone that he had taken a longer route because he had encountered a black cat on the road. His casual explanation made several opponents wince. Haku glanced at him and mused that, while Naruto bore the air of the 4th Hokage's son and was exceptionally talented, he still had more to learn. Zabuza, observing the resemblance, asked Kakashi whether Naruto really was his son. Kakashi answered with quiet affection that Naruto was not his son by blood, but he cared for him as if he were family. Zabuza scowled but accepted the answer. Elsewhere, Gato's men prepared to strike. Naruto stepped forward to confront Gato. He forced Gato to face a vision using his Sharingan, a vision that left the villain disoriented and overwhelmed. Gato collapsed afterward, incapacitated by the encounter. Zabuza and Haku quickly subdued the remaining mercenaries and secured Gato's body. Zabuza thanked Naruto, and Naruto accepted the thanks with a brief nod. Back in Kumo, Yugito continued to hum a cheerful tune as she collected Naruto's photographs and other keepsakes, placing them carefully into a storage scroll. Karui watched her friend with alarm at how different Yugito seemed, lighter, happier, and nearly giddy compared to the serious, stern woman she knew. Karui grabbed Yugito and demanded to know what had come over her. Samui observed quietly and noted that the mere mention of Naruto's name changed Yugito's demeanor entirely. Karui's suspicions about Yugito's feelings began to fall into place as she remembered Naruto's constant presence, his orange book, and the way he wandered the world with odd explanations for his delays. Despite the confusion, Karui and the others resolved to keep an eye on their friend and to support her as they prepared to depart for Konoha with their team. Reigake were heading to Konoha to take the Chunin exams. Yugito increased her speed to arrive earlier. In recent days she had been acting strangely, thinking that Naruto would soon belong to her and imagining how she could get his attention. Naruto's name alone seemed to change her. Inside the shared mental space, the presence of Matatabi grew possessive and unsettling, which made Kurama uneasy. In Konoha, Naruto admitted that he felt afraid of Yugito, and Kurama sensed danger because the tailed beasts and their hosts were restless and could act unpredictably. After an encounter with the Sand team, Naruto walked through the village reading his copy of Ika Ika Paradise. A voice called out his name and knocked him down. He recognized Yugito immediately. She was on top of him, blushing and smiling. Matatabi lunged at Kurama within the shared mental space, dragging him deeper into their subconscious realm. Kurama cried out for help as he was pulled inward. In that inner world, Naruto expressed relief at seeing Yugito, and Yugito returned the sentiment, suggesting they go for ramen. Naruto awkwardly agreed and asked her to get off him. They went to eat ramen together and spoke amiably on the way to Naruto's apartment. Yugito quietly set her plan in motion once they arrived. She activated a subtle barrier around the apartment and then dropped onto the bed beside Naruto. Naruto, surprised, asked what she was doing. Yugito kissed him unexpectedly. He responded with confusion and curiosity. She reassured him that they had the night ahead, then removed his mask to reveal a deep blush on his face and the marks on his cheeks. They shared another brief, tender kiss and then paused. They remained together in a quiet moment, the night holding its possibilities. The sun rose over Konoha. In a small apartment, Naruto woke with a smile, remembering the events of the previous night. He did not regret what had happened. At his side, his girlfriend slept curled up against him, holding him gently. Naruto called for Kurama and saw, through their bond, that Kurama and Matatabi were resting close together, with Kurama's 9 tails curled around Matatabi in a protective way. Naruto teased Kurama, thinking that the fox was finally less standoffish and wondering aloud when he would become an uncle. Kurama answered with a shy expression and then spoke seriously about the life of a tailed beast. Naruto stepped out of Yugito's warm embrace to get dressed and prepare breakfast for the two of them. Yugito greeted him cheerfully, already dressed, and wrapped her arms around him from behind. Naruto returned the greeting and turned to remove his mask. He shared a brief affectionate moment with her. Yugito then declared that they were officially a couple, and Naruto accepted the new reality with a smile. Yugito responded that he belonged to her now and she to him, and they exchanged light, happy banter about Kurama and Matatabi potentially becoming parents someday. As Yugito finished preparing breakfast, she deactivated the barrier around the apartment. Naruto teased Kurama again about the possibility of nieces or nephews. Kurama replied that he would like to have offspring, but he remained wary because of the threat from the Akatsuki. If he did become a parent, he would do everything in his power to protect the child. Naruto vowed to grow stronger so he could protect Yugito and any future family as well. Kurama acknowledged that Naruto had enjoyed the previous night, and then gently withdrew from their mental space. They sat down to eat together. Yugito thanked Naruto for the meal, and everyone began eating. Suddenly, Sakura arrived at the door in a hurry, sounding exasperated about Naruto being late for the Chunin exams. Kakashi opened the door for her. Naruto asked Sakura not to shout. Yugito peered through the doorway and asked who Sakura was, which left Sakura stunned. Naruto introduced Yugito as his girlfriend and mentioned that they had known each other for 6 years. Yugito offered a polite greeting, gathered her things from the room, and prepared to leave. Sakura, bewildered, asked when Naruto had started dating someone. Naruto explained that it had begun the day before. They closed the apartment and left together to take the Chunin exams, while Sakura followed with a flood of questions about the surprising news. Naruto was reading his book Ika Paradise and mostly ignored his teammate and girlfriend Yugito. Yugito explained that she had met him in Kumo 6 years ago and that, as a Jinchuriki, he understood the pain of being hated and rejected by his village for something he could not control. Sakura acknowledged the explanation and seemed to accept it. At the gate where they waited for their sensei, Yugito told Naruto that they would see each other soon. Naruto returned her embrace with a brief, affectionate gesture before she left with her team. Karui arrived upset at how casually Yugito had come back. Yugito cheerfully said she had been with Naruto, and Omoi and Samui exchanged knowing looks and questions about how long she had stayed. Yugito described the night as memorable. Her smile made Karui uneasy. Everyone reacted with a nervous glance. Samui suggested they move on, and the group entered the large hall to take the Chunin exams. Yugito looked for Naruto among the 11 hopefuls and ran to him, tackling him in a playful, energetic way that left them both laughing. Sakura drew attention to the scene, and Yugito glanced toward the wall, prompting chuckles from the others. Hinata, curious and shy, asked what her relationship to Naruto was. Yugito declared that she was Naruto's girlfriend, and the room exploded in shocked reactions. Sasuke in particular could not believe that a copy of his rival already had a girlfriend. Those who cared for Yugito shot a warning look at Naruto to make it clear he should not hurt her. Naruto understood and grew serious for a moment. Meanwhile, in a private office, the 5th Hokage, Tsunade, and her staff were overwhelmed with paperwork. Shizun informed her that the Raikage wished to speak with her. The Raikage proposed a political marriage between Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of Kurama, and Yugito Nii, Jinchuriki of the Two Tails, as a means to strengthen an alliance between Konoha and Kumo and lay down the feud. The Raikage spoke of peace and practical benefits, an alliance, support for Kumogakure shinobi returning from missions, and trade agreements. Tsunade hesitated at first but ultimately agreed, imagining grandchildren and signing the necessary documents. The two Kage then shared a drink to seal the agreement. Naruto downplayed how he had met Yugito, saying simply that it had been in Kumo 6 years earlier. The teammates of Yugito made it clear that they would not tolerate anyone hurting her. Naruto understood the message. After completing the written portion of the exam, the two Jinchuriki left hand in hand to spend time together. Tsunade felt exhausted by the constant paperwork, and when the Raikage arrived she welcomed him to discuss the agreement. He explained the terms again and emphasized that Yugito would move to Konoha to live with Naruto. Both Kage signed the alliance, and the new arrangement pleased everyone involved. Yugito delighted in how large and beautiful Konoha was. Naruto blushed and thought that the most beautiful thing was standing by his side. Kakashi called them to the Hokage monument to inform them that the Hokage wanted to see them. Yugito was already packed and ready to move to Konoha, excited at the change. Tsunade confirmed the political marriage and that Yugito would live in Konoha, which made the young couple very happy. Over the following days, Naruto enjoyed the steady company of Yugito, and she rarely left his side. She began to feel unwell at times, experiencing nausea and dizziness, and she mentioned that Matatabi seemed affected in parallel. The cause of the discomfort was unclear, but she and Naruto made sure to watch each other closely. Later, Anko led the briefing for the next phase of the exams. She explained that the field of training, known as the Forest of Death, would require each team to find 2 scrolls, one of heaven and one of earth, and then survive for 4 days in the forest. There would be towers scattered throughout where teams could exchange scrolls and rest until the next stage began. She handed out the Heaven and Earth scrolls to the teams and gave the final instructions. Yugito's team received their scrolls and prepared themselves for the challenge ahead. They gathered their supplies, checked their formations, and set off toward the Forest of Death, ready to face the trials that awaited them. They were in the Forest of Death, searching for the Heaven and Earth scrolls. Naruto suggested that they work together to find the missing scroll, proposing cooperation between the groups. Karui refused outright, insisting that she would not spend 4 days with what she called a pervert, and she pointed at him accusingly while continuing to read her orange-covered book. Samui and Yugito stepped in and gently restrained Karui to prevent her from acting on her anger. Omoi thought to himself that Karui was out of her mind. Anko ordered everyone to begin, and all the teams entered the forest. Sasuke asked if the other team intended to work with them to obtain the scrolls. Samui answered that their original plan had been to split up and try to seize a scroll from another team, but she added with irritation that someone could not seem to stay away from the masked shinobi. Sasuke muttered that Naruto was lucky. Karui muttered an insult under her breath, and Naruto, blushing a little, tried to laugh it off with a boastful manner that he would not admit to taking seriously. Yugito remained close to Naruto, showing quiet support. After Samui and Yugito freed themselves, the Kumo and Konoha teams pressed on, continuing their search for the Heaven and Earth scrolls. A massive serpent suddenly appeared and forced the teams apart. Naruto called out urgently to make sure Yugito was all right, and Sasuke, annoyed but sincere, thanked Naruto for his concern. Yugito answered that she was present and demanded to know where the intruder was, brushing dust from her clothing and checking that her teammates were unhurt. A woman with serpentine features manifested in the clearing and spoke in a mocking tone, claiming the scrolls and threatening consequences if they refused. Naruto noted to everyone that the woman's chakra felt unlike any they had encountered and warned them to stay back because she was powerful. Yugito volunteered to fight alongside Naruto, while Samui made clear she had no interest in joining the fray. Sasuke worried privately about the dark nature of the woman's chakra and hoped that Naruto and his companion could handle the threat. Naruto called the woman out, demanding that she remove her disguise and revealing his awareness. The woman shed her form and revealed herself as Orochimaru. Naruto declared he would not allow Orochimaru to touch Sasuke, and Orochimaru responded that they would see about that before launching himself at Naruto. A close-quarters fight of taijutsu began, Naruto and Yugito cooperating to defend and counter the Sannin strikes. Yugito formed a modest fire technique while Naruto used a larger fire-style attack. Both jutsu were sent toward Orochimaru, who dodged and hit back, forcing them backward. Naruto closed in and struck Orochimaru in the midsection, sending him stumbling several meters. Orochimaru tried to counter, but Naruto managed to evade and land a blow that Orochimaru absorbed, and then Naruto unleashed a blue fireball that drove Orochimaru back into nearby trees. Orochimaru observed that Naruto's abilities were not what he had expected from a Jinchuriki and wondered whether Naruto would use the Sharingan. The Sannin gathered more chakra and prepared to press the attack. Yugito urged Naruto forward, and Naruto, supported by his ally, released the Sharingan in his eye to anticipate Orochimaru's moves. Orochimaru noted that the eye resembled one that had come from Shisui Uchiha and taunted Naruto to show what he had learned. The two combatants escalated their taijutsu exchange until Naruto suddenly vanished into a flock of crows, and the world shifted into a red-hued genjutsu. Orochimaru found himself trapped in a mental illusion where moments stretched into an exhausting span. In that vision, countless Mirage Narutos appeared with swords and overwhelmed Orochimaru, who cried out in distress. Back in reality, Orochimaru screamed and collapsed, then used his techniques to escape, sliding away into a pool of mud. Naruto covered his Sharingan and fell to the ground, exhausted from the strain of the genjutsu. Naruto admitted to Yugito that he had not yet mastered the technique and still paid a heavy cost when using it. Yugito teased him lightly for using such a demanding illusion, then helped him support himself as they moved to find a place to rest. They reached one of the rest towers within the Forest of Death. Naruto rested, aware that he could not rely on the genjutsu without paying steep chakra costs. Previously he had used Kurama's chakra to offset that strain, but he no longer had that luxury. Sasuke watched from nearby and wondered, genuinely puzzled, how Naruto had come to possess the Sharingan. Itachi then remembered that Shisui Uchiha, his best friend, had treated him like a younger brother and at the time of his death, had entrusted him with his left eye. Itachi wondered what had become of the right eye. The dark-haired young man wondered whether Shisui had given him his left eye before he died, and where his right eye might be. Yugito asked how Naruto was, concerned for her boyfriend who was comfortably resting his head in her lap. Naruto thanked Yugito and smiled, saying he felt much better because of her. A few days later, everyone gathered in an arena for preliminary matches. The first match was Sasuke Uchiha against Yoroi of Konoha. Sasuke descended into the stadium with an arrogant smile. Yoroi rushed at him with a kunai. Sasuke activated his eye technique, vanished, and struck Yoroi with a powerful kick that launched him upward. Sasuke followed with a rapid combo of kicks, then leapt above him and delivered a decisive blow called the Lion Barrage, sending Yoroi crashing to the ground and leaving him unconscious. Sasuke was declared the winner. The next match was Sakura Haruno against Ino Yamanaka. It turned into a chaotic fight between two determined young women and ended in a tie, with their friendship restored afterward. Kankuro faced Socket. The puppeteer from the village of Suna easily outmaneuvered the sound ninja using his puppet crow and defeated him. Yugito Nii faced Hinata Hyuga. Yugito gave Naruto a brief kiss on the cheek before descending to the arena. When the match began, Hinata activated her Byakugan and rushed toward the Jinchuriki, but Yugito evaded skillfully. Acknowledging Hinata's strength and skill, Yugito found an opening, struck from behind, and knocked her out, becoming the winner. Omoi fought Neji Hyuga. The brown-haired Hyuga repeatedly proclaimed that fate had chosen him, while the prodigy from the Hyuga clan remained focused and calm. Omoi's attacks were dodged with ease by Neji, who analyzed Omoi's weaknesses, most notably his pride. When Omoi let anger take over, Neji capitalized and secured victory. Shikamaru Nara faced Kin of the Sound. At first Kin seemed to corner Shikamaru using sound-based tactics, but Shikamaru calmly assessed the situation. Using his strategic mind and his shadow technique, he turned the tide and defeated Kin. The match reinforced the idea that, while the Nara could be lazy, they were brilliant strategists. Temari faced Tenten. The Suna Kunoichi dominated the match and emerged victorious. Gaara faced Dosu. Gaara defeated him with apparent ease. Karui fought Chuji Akimichi. Their match was entertaining as Chuji employed his expansion technique to try to trap Karui, while she conserved chakra and sought openings. In the end, Karui won. Samui faced Kiba Inazuka. The Kumo ninja proved superior and defeated the Inazuka. Shino Aburame fought Haku Yuki. Shino used his insects to attack while Haku countered with ice techniques that froze and controlled the insects. Haku trapped Shino within an ice mirror technique that created reflections and then launched precise attacks, eventually taking the match. Rock Lee faced Naruto Uzumaki in a highly anticipated bout. Guy teased Kakashi about the genin matches, hoping their youth's flames would burn bright. Kakashi, absorbed in his book, responded nonchalantly. Rock Lee approached the arena full of excitement while Naruto continued reading his book, much to the amusement and mild annoyance of those watching. Lee challenged Naruto to show the intensity of his youthful spirit. Naruto set his book aside, met Lee's enthusiasm, and prepared for the fight. Lee charged and attempted a kick. Naruto blocked with his arm and thought about how strong Lee was as he evaded and countered. They traded blows, punches, and kicks that created shockwaves across the arena. Naruto told Lee to remove his weights, surprising everyone. Lee acknowledged Naruto and took off his heavy ankle weights, letting them fall and create a crater as he vanished and reappeared in front of Naruto with a powerful kick. Naruto blocked in an X-shaped guard and was pushed back, leaving a mark on the wall. Naruto admitted that Lee had forced him to use something special and revealed an eye technique, surprising most of the audience. Kurenai asked Kakashi how Naruto could have that eye. Kakashi explained that Shisui had entrusted it before his death, a somber reminder of past sacrifices that left Naruto uneasy. Naruto refocused and told Lee he would take the match seriously. He appeared before Lee and struck him in the abdomen, sending Lee back, then followed by driving Lee into the ground. The two disappeared and reappeared repeatedly as sounds of impact filled the arena. Powerful clashes. Even Sasuke and Kakashi had difficulty following with their own techniques. Yugito, attuned to Matatabi's chakra, sensed the faint presences from the combatants. They collided in the center of the arena, their fists meeting with a massive shockwave that damaged part of the stadium. Lee praised Naruto's spirit and vowed to give everything in this fight. Naruto became surrounded by a red chakra aura forming two tails, signaling he was preparing to push himself further. His Sharingan flashed, the pupils slashed in a sign of unleashed power. Naruto urged Rock Lee to show all his strength, speaking with Kurama's voice and clearly excited for the battle. Rock Lee answered that he would get serious. Naruto laughed loudly, a dark green aura swirling around him as his face flushed with excitement. He challenged Rock Lee, urging him to show what he could do. The chakra of Kurama formed another tail, creating the impression of three tails wrapping around Naruto. Rock Lee shouted that he was going in, charging at Naruto and landing a solid blow that sent Naruto backward. Naruto dropped to all fours, let out a roar, and charged again, striking Lee and sending him reeling. Both fighters vanished and reappeared in a blur as Naruto used an advanced technique taught by Shisui and Lee relied on his incredible speed. Their fists met across the arena in a series of rapid clashes, creating powerful shockwaves that ripped through the battlefield. The Kage watched in astonishment at the speed and strength of the two combatants. The Raikage observed Naruto with pride. Over 6 years he had taught the blonde many things. Naruto did not wear his lightning armor this time, but Kurama's chakra crackled with lightning, making him faster. Naruto struck Lee, sending him retreating, then leapt into the air and appeared in front of the blonde, kicking him toward the wall. Naruto acknowledged that Rock Lee was the first to push him to such extremes. He closed the distance and struck with his tail-like chakra, one tail capturing Lee's leg and slamming him repeatedly into the stadium floor. When Lee freed himself, both charged for a final collision, their fists meeting in a huge burst of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Naruto stood exhausted, his chakra of the 9 tails faded and his headband covering his Sharingan eye. A cloth partially covered his face and his clothing was torn, exposing his abdomen. Many in the audience blushed at the sight. The instructor declared Naruto Uzumaki the winner. Yugito, the Jinchuriki of the 2 tails, congratulated Naruto warmly and embraced him. Some of the women in the stands, including Mizukage, watched with impatience. Only Tsunade and Shizune remained composed. Yugito's protectiveness was clear, and she made it obvious she would not tolerate anyone bothering Naruto. Naruto thanked Yugito and asked to be let go so he could change clothes. Yugito agreed, and Naruto retreated to change. After his match he burned his damaged garments and put on a fresh orange jumpsuit to go train. Yugito kissed Naruto briefly before rejoining her teammates. Naruto settled down to read a pervy novel in his downtime. Later, Jiraiya told Naruto he wanted to talk about Akatsuki. Naruto closed his book and listened as his mentor spoke seriously. That evening a blonde woman in a purple cloud-patterned top walked happily to her shared apartment with Naruto. The small copy of Naruto had given her a spare key. They were a couple and planned to live together. She set her bag on the hanger and called out that she had arrived. She found Naruto preparing dinner and greeted him warmly. Naruto smiled and returned the greeting, then removed his mask briefly to reveal the 3 whisker-like marks on his cheeks, a sight Yugito always cherished. He wrapped his arms around Yugito's waist and they shared a brief, affectionate kiss before separating to get more air. Yugito commented on the delicious aroma of the food. Naruto said he had learned from some of the best, thinking of Shisui and Kakashi who had taught him to cook, though he believed his dishes still did not compare to others. Yugito washed her hands and sat at the table while Naruto served a plate of fried fish he had prepared. Yugito praised the meal. Naruto admitted he had learned from the best. Yugito then grew serious and told Naruto that she had something very important to say. Naruto took her hands and assured her that she could trust him with anything. Yugito revealed that she was Prodigy. Both she and her tailed beast, Matatabi, reacted with the same stunned silence, then fainted from the shock. A few moments later they came to and looked at their partners with wonder. Naruto and Kurama both asked if it was true. Yugito and Matatabi nodded slowly, and Naruto and Yugito shared a tender, relieved kiss. Naruto said he felt like the happiest man in the world and thanked Yugito. Kurama, too, expressed joy and gratitude. The next matches were announced: Sasuke Uchiha vs Omoi, Yugito Nii vs Shino Aburame, Karui vs Samui, Temari of the Sand vs Shikamaru Nara, and Naruto Uzumaki vs Gaara of the Sand. The competitors withdrew and prepared for the next rounds, each carrying the weight of their goals and bonds. A month had passed since the Biju and its Jinchuriki had received the best news of their lives. Naruto stayed by Yugito's side constantly to keep her and her baby safe. Today was the final stage of the Chunin exams, the final matches. The instructor announced that the matches should begin. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and Omoi took a fighting stance. Omoi rushed forward and Sasuke launched several attacks. Omoi dodged with some difficulty. Sensing he needed to increase the tempo, Sasuke sped up and struck hard enough to send Omoi several steps back. Omoi warned that Sasuke had grown serious and urged him not to disappoint. Sasuke replied arrogantly that he was an elite Uchiha and would not lose to someone like Omoi. Omoi retorted that he had faced Naruto and believed Naruto was stronger than an elite Uchiha. Sasuke admitted that Naruto was stronger, but insisted he would one day catch up and surpass him. The two then engaged in a pure taijutsu battle. The fight was long and intense, neither willing to yield, and in the end Sasuke Uchiha emerged as the victor. Karui and Samui descended into the stadium and faced each other. They were teammates and close friends, but in this match they gave everything. Both drew their katanas and fought fiercely, each determined to win. After an impressive and relentless exchange, the match ended in a draw. Yugito entered the arena next and Shino followed. The instructor called for the bout to begin. Shino released his insects, and Yugito unleashed a large fireball that incinerated the insects. Recognizing that Shino could use his insects for long-range attacks, Yugito chose to close the distance and engage in close combat, with the option to draw on Matatabi's chakra if needed. Shino's insects detected a presence of chakra within Yugito similar to Naruto's, so he resolved to keep his strikes minimal to avoid provoking a greater reaction. After an intense, fast-paced fight framed like an anime battle, Yugito prevailed. Temari entered the arena and Shikamaru was pushed into the match by Naruto. Shikamaru displayed clever strategic thinking as he tried to outmaneuver Temari, but in the end he conceded, finding the responsibilities of becoming a Chunin too burdensome. Gaara descended to the stadium next while Naruto sat reading his book. Gaara declared that Naruto's blood would be his, but Naruto did not seem to notice at first because he was absorbed in his reading. Gaara became angry and launched a barrage of sand at Naruto, who avoided the initial attacks and closed the distance. Gaara continued to press his assault, but Naruto countered with a powerful fire-style technique. The sand rose to shield Gaara, crystallizing briefly, while Naruto produced 9 golden chains from his back that bound and suppressed Gaara's chakra. Naruto then used a genjutsu, rendering Gaara unconscious, and marked him with a seal on the forehead. Explosions began to be heard in the distance. Explosions spread across Konoha, and white feathers drifted down from the sky, lulling the civilians in the stadium to sleep. Naruto carried the unconscious Gaara to confront the siblings from the Sand Village. Naruto stated seriously that they had planned to use Shikaku to destroy Konoha. Kankuro insisted that it had not been their idea and explained that the plot had been orchestrated by the Kazekage. Temari affirmed fiercely that Gaara was their brother. The woman exclaimed angrily that she did not like the idea of using Shikaku to attack Konoha. She admitted that her brother might be a SDST, but she loved him. She did not approve of releasing Gaara's tailed beast for an attack. A small ninja clone looked at her seriously, clearly concerned. Naruto explained that he had modified the seal so Shikaku would no longer be troubled by bloodlust and could sleep peacefully at night. Kankuro thanked Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto told them to go to a safe place. He handed Gaara over and revealed that Orochimaru was behind the assault. They thanked him and moved to safety. Yugito approached and asked if Naruto was all right. Naruto said he was fine but worried about the Kages, since Orochimaru was behind the invasion. Yugito shared the concern and said the Raikage would help stop the assault. Naruto created 200 shadow clones and sent them to evacuate civilians and the innocent. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Guy fought fiercely, taking down Sound and Sand Shinobi. Jiraiya had summoned Gamabunta, who engaged Orochimaru's giant summoned snakes while Jiraiya pressed the attack. And Uchiha was assisting Yugito's allies to resist the invasion. Killer Bee, wielding his 8 swords and projecting his energetic persona, moved with incredible speed to defeat enemy ninjas and the giant serpents. In the Kage stand, Tsunade prepared to confront Orochimaru for attacking her village and reviving Hashirama and Tobirama. Orochimaru had not been able to revive the 4th Hokage, and that limitation gave Tsunade an advantage. Her revived predecessors could not be easily controlled. She relied on brute strength to face them. The Raikage struggled, furious that Orochimaru had brought his own father into the fight. The father and son clash continued despite not being at full power, and furious regeneration on the enemy's side complicated matters. The Mizukage found herself pressed. Facing a powerful genjutsu user left her limited, and she decided the priority was to get to Orochimaru and undo the Edo Tensei. The Tsuchikage fought despite his years, but age hindered him. Suddenly a yellow flash struck the 1st Hokage and sent him flying. Everyone stopped to look and saw Naruto appear. Naruto greeted them with his usual lopsided smile. Tsunade, surprised, wondered how he had arrived. Naruto informed her that she bore a mark and then excused himself, saying he had to deal with a snake. Orochimaru let out a mocking laugh and said he would like to see him try. Naruto revealed a Sharingan eye and, in an instant, appeared in a burst of blue before the Sannin, striking and sending him flying. His Sharingan was torn, and in his right eye there was the tailed beast's gaze. He launched into close-quarters combat. Orochimaru seemed to have the upper hand at first, but Kurama had taken control of Naruto's body, shifting the balance. Naruto vowed that Orochimaru would pay for all his crimes. Orochimaru, surprised, realized that the tailed beast had taken the reins of Naruto's body. Naruto then employed the genjutsu Tsukuyami, and Orochimaru found himself again in a dark, disorienting place. This time the only difference was that the 9 tails stood before him, and Kurama invited Orochimaru to provide some entertainment. After Kurama's confrontation with the snake Sannin, he emerged from the genjutsu badly injured. The 4 members of the sound team carried him away as they had arrived. The 5 Kage and the other shinobi returned to their villages. Yugito said goodbye to the Raikage, Bee, and his friends. They left, and Yugito smiled sadly, knowing she would miss them. The village was recovering from Orochimaru's attack. Naruto helped with his shadow clones while Sasuke watched with envy, wanting the power he believed he needed to confront his brother Itachi. Sasuke challenged Naruto to a fight, urging him to battle. Naruto was showing the village to his cousin Karen, who had been saved from Orochimaru's subordinates by Yugito and was now new to Konoha. Naruto led Karen and Yugito on a tour. When Sasuke arrived, Karen recognized him, remembering his saving her from an attacking bear, and her cheeks flushed. They went to training field number 7. Yugito sat on a log beside the red-haired girl. Naruto took out his orange-covered book, which annoyed Sasuke and made him feel like Naruto was not taking him seriously. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and dashed at Naruto intending to strike, but Naruto easily dodged without taking his eyes off the book. Sasuke taunted that Naruto was slow, which only angered him further and sparked a flurry of attacks. Naruto dodged with some difficulty while still reading. Sasuke demanded that Naruto stop ignoring him and fight. When Sasuke swung to punch, Naruto grabbed his fist with his right hand and kicked him in the stomach, sending him to the ground. Naruto told Sasuke that he was still weak. Sasuke shouted that a dobe like Naruto could never defeat him, and Naruto countered that Itachi would be disappointed in him. Sasuke erupted in pain and sorrow, shouting that Itachi had killed the entire clan and his parents and had ordered Sasuke to hate him to gain the strength to kill him. He rose from the ground and stared at Naruto with tears in his eyes. Naruto closed his book and told Sasuke it was time to know the truth. Sasuke's Sharingan shifted into a more intense pattern, and Naruto's vision was pulled into a dark space. Naruto found himself in a genjutsu where a waterfall appeared and the past unfolded. He saw a younger Itachi and a 7-year-old Naruto in the scene. Naruto asked if there was no other option. Itachi explained that there had been no choice. The Uchiha planned a coup d'état, and with Shisui dead, Itachi had been entrusted with Shisui's left eye to use carefully. Itachi told Naruto to take care of Sasuke. The vision shifted to the Uchiha household. Sasuke stood before his kneeling parents as Itachi, with his Mangekyo Sharingan activated, trembled. Itachi's hands shook and tears fell from his face. His parents expressed pride and sorrow. His father lamented that Itachi might have become Hokage and apologized for what had led them to this moment. They made Itachi promise to protect Sasuke. The scene continued, showing Itachi raising his sword and, in a swift and tragic action, striking his parents until they fell. Their bodies lay motionless. Naruto appeared, overwhelmed with sadness, and asked what would happen now. Itachi said he would make Sasuke hate him so that Sasuke would grow stronger and, when the time came, kill him. If Sasuke ever learned the truth about manipulations from Konoha, it could lead to much worse consequences, with others exploiting the situation. Itachi entrusted Sasuke to Naruto and announced that he would join Akatsuki to keep watch over their plans and over the Jinchuriki. The vision faded and Naruto returned to reality, falling to his knees and weeping as he had never wept before. The Mangekyo Sharingan reflected in his tear-filled eyes. Naruto realized that Itachi had lied to protect him, that to Itachi, Naruto and Sasuke were the most important things. Itachi had joined Akatsuki to watch over them and to protect them from threats, even if it meant bearing hatred himself. After subjecting Sasuke to that genjutsu, Sasuke awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. The two began to grow closer like brothers. Sasuke began living with Karen so she would not be alone. Naruto had given the excuse that there were no more apartments in Konoha, while in truth Karen had feelings for Sasuke and Yugito had suggested she stay with him. Sasuke did not mind Karen's presence. Tsunade began training Karen as she saw great potential in her, as well as in Hinata and Ino, while she weighed whether to accept Sakura as a student. Jiraiya returned to the village after checking important information and sought out Naruto and his companions. He found them at the Hokage's office looking at the landscape. He announced their next plan. Akatsuki had already captured the Three Tails, so they would go on a training journey. Jiraiya told them that over the next 3 years they needed to become strong enough to face Akatsuki, who had targeted the most dangerous threats first and would eventually go after younger Jinchuriki. Naruto listened seriously, determined that he could not allow Akatsuki to capture his girlfriend and the others he loved. Jiraiya confirmed that they would depart the next day at midday. After Jiraiya left, the pair of Jinchuriki remained deep in thought. Yugito worried aloud about whether they could defeat Akatsuki. They already knew how strong the organization was from their previous encounters and feared what Akatsuki's plans might bring. She no longer needed strangers hunting her to take away the motherly presence that Matatabi had been to her. Matatabi had cared for her for as long as she could remember. They had met when she was 5. Matatabi had been kind, explaining the bijou and the reasons she had been shunned, and even offering an apology, which surprised her. They quickly forged a strong bond of friendship. Naruto resolved that they would defeat Akatsuki. The 6 years of training in Kyumo had been worth it, and the 3 years they planned to spend away from Konoha would make them even stronger. He embraced his partner as memories of their training in Kyumo surfaced, including the time they had encountered Kisame and Itachi. If not for B and Jiraiya, they would not have survived that confrontation. Naruto had also spoken with Itachi, who had provided crucial information about Akatsuki, and Naruto had been grateful for it. He would not allow them to take Kurama, nor to capture Yugito to extract Matatabi. Yugito expressed her thanks to Naruto and revealed the 3 marks on her cheeks that he liked. They shared a quiet, comforting moment that strengthened their resolve. They then rested together in companionable silence. Yugito gently touched Naruto's cheek, and he blushed. The next morning, the Sannin and the 2 Jinchurikis said farewell to friends and family and began walking toward the gate of Konoha. During those 3 years they intended to grow stronger than ever and stand against Akatsuki. Naruto swore to Shisui that he would fulfill his promise. He would confront Danzo, recover Shisui's right eye and the other Sharingan taken by that man, protect Yugito and their future child at any cost, and become Hokage. Yugito vowed that in those 3 years she would become stronger than ever to protect Naruto and their future child. Jiraiya bid Konoha farewell, and Naruto affirmed that they were ready to set out. 3 long years passed since the Sannin and the 2 Jinchurikis had left on their training journey. As they approached Konoha, 3 figures cast shadows near the village, one with white hair and red marks on his face, another with blonde hair tied in a ponytail wearing a purple top and the Konoha forehead protector, and a blonde companion wearing a dark blue mask and the Konoha headband covering his left eye, dressed in orange and black. They walked with determination. Jiraiya announced that after 3 years of training they had returned. Naruto said he wanted to eat a good bowl of ramen, and Yugito said she wanted to rest. Jiraiya then asked if they had prepared their testament. Jiraiya pointed to the bulges on the Jinchurikis' backs and asked for an explanation. Naruto carried a 3-year-old blonde boy wearing a navy mask, a navy shirt, black shorts and shinobi sandals, while Yugito held a blue-haired girl in a dark blue dress. Yugito clarified that he meant Menma and Kaneko. Jiraiya made a sarcastic remark about how unusual the situation was, given how young the parents appeared. Yugito's prodigy had been longer than normal because of her Jinchuriki condition, and with Akatsuki still a threat, the council had considered using a young Biju for their own ends. That was why the family had kept the truth hidden and why Naruto had protected Menma and Kaneko. When they entered Konoha, the guards were asleep, so they slipped into the village quietly. Karen noticed 2 chakras, one very small and another much larger. 2 little heads peeked over the shoulders of the Jinchuriki. Menma introduced himself and said he had blue eyes. Kaneko introduced herself and said she had 1 yellow eye and 1 green eye. Karen cooed at them but felt something wilder in Kaneko's chakra. Naruto said they had to go to Tsunade's office. His serious tone made clear it was urgent. At the office, Naruto formed a barrier and left Menma and Kaneko on the floor while Shizun and Karen played with the children. Tsunade asked what was so important. Yugito answered that what they were about to reveal was a top-level secret and must not leave the room. Naruto then explained that Menma Namikaze Uzumaki and Kaneko had been born under unusual circumstances 3 years earlier and that the circumstances made it dangerous if the village or Akatsuki learned Kaneko's true nature. He stressed the need for secrecy. 2 smoke puffs appeared and the Biju manifested in human-like forms. Kurama as a red-haired man and Matatabi as a blue-haired woman. Kurama warned them in a low tone to keep the secret or suffer serious consequences. Matatabi added a teasing comment, but both made it clear they were not joking. Everyone except Jiraiya and the Jinchuriki went quiet, unsettled by the Biju and their menacing presence. Kaneko ran to hug her parents, her small form briefly revealing blue tails beneath her dress. Tsunade confirmed the identities of the 2 Biju and Matatabi corrected her name. Kurama bristled at the idea of humans knowing their true names but then softened and played with Kaneko. Karen assured them their secret would be safe. Tsunade instructed Kurama and Matatabi to protect Menma and Kaneko from Konoha and from Akatsuki, and she ordered Naruto and Yugito to undergo a test the next day at noon. After the meeting, the Biju returned to their Jinchuriki vessels and Yugito deactivated the barrier. Naruto walked out with an orange-covered book while their friends looked on, surprised by Yugito's marriage ring and by the 2 children. To avoid complications, the group told others that Kaneko was adopted. A seal hid some of her animal traits, but her powerful chakra was still noticeable. The friends found it odd but chose not to press the matter. Yugito complained that their apartment was too small. Kurama suggested that Naruto claim his family estate so they could have more space and be together without being discovered. Kurama said the Namikaze mansion would be large enough for them to live with their daughter in human form. Naruto agreed and promised to make sure no one would harm their children. Kurama disappeared into Naruto with a puff of smoke. Menma told his father to be careful, and Kaneko waved and said goodbye. In the council chamber, Hamura asked Naruto why he had called the meeting, irritated that Naruto had summoned the council without apparent authority. Naruto stated plainly that he had come to claim his inheritance. Tsunade revealed that Naruto's parents were Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, surprising everyone who did not expect him to be their son. Danzo proposed placing Naruto's family under root custody to ensure their loyalty to the village. That suggestion pushed Naruto to the limit. Naruto, filled with Kurama's chakra, erupted in a fierce declaration that no one would touch his children. His anger manifested visibly as chakra surges that intensified the room's atmosphere. Without resorting to gore, Naruto used chakra chains to restrain the council members and to neutralize those who tried to intervene. He disarmed Danzo by removing the hidden prosthetic arm and securing the eye device so it could no longer be used. Jiraiya stepped forward with evidence he had uncovered during their travels, proof of crimes committed by elements within the council and by Danzo himself. Naruto accused Danzo of being responsible for past betrayals and tragedies, including the events surrounding Shisui's death, and suggested that some in the room would want to recover what had been lost. To make his point tangible, Naruto produced Shisui's eye and placed it in a small basin as evidence of what had been hidden. Sasuke reacted with shock and anger at the implication. The council sat in stunned silence, caught between the undeniable evidence and Naruto's unyielding demand for justice. A green liquid and 2 eyes would be used to obtain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke did not refuse. He looked toward Tsunade and tossed her a folder filled with the crimes committed by the counselors and the civil council. Naruto presented the folder, explaining that it contained several offenses attributed to the council and its advisors. Tsunade nodded and told him to proceed. Naruto then called on Sasuke. Sasuke accepted and activated Amaterasu. Black flames flared, incapacitating the corrupt advisors while Naruto moved decisively to neutralize the council's leaders without bloodshed. Tsunade promised that Naruto would receive his inheritance within 48 hours and thanked him for lifting a heavy burden. Naruto expressed his gratitude to the Hokage and asked if she could transplant the eyes. Tsunade agreed and said she would finish the paperwork before beginning the operation. The next day, Yugito worriedly checked on Naruto, who still had a white bandage over his eyes after Tsunade's operation to transplant the Sharingan eyes taken from Danzo's arm. Those eyes were intended to complete the evolution to the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and with Kurama's chakra he would recover his vision soon. Naruto reassured Yugito that even if he could not see yet, he could feel her chakra and asked her not to worry. He smiled beneath his mask. Menma encouraged his parents from a distance, cheering them on. Kaneko, the small Biju, shouted encouragement to her uncles. Jiraiya and Tsunade watched alongside them. Kakashi outlined the sparring test. Sasuke would fight Naruto, Yugito would face Karen, and Sakura would challenge Kakashi. Sakura, who had trained hard under Tsunade and overcome her previous infatuation with Sasuke, stepped up to face her sensei. Sasuke warned Naruto not to underestimate him because of his temporary blindness. Naruto responded that he expected nothing less. The test began. Both kunoichi engaged in a close, fast-paced taijutsu exchange. Sakura fought her sensei with intensity while both rivals maintained sharp focus. Naruto relied on his other senses and motioned for Sasuke to go first. Sasuke charged, but Naruto evaded, catching Sasuke's kick with one hand and striking him with the other. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and the two entered a rapid taijutsu duel. Sasuke seemed to have the edge at first, but Naruto gradually turned the tide. Naruto slipped low to dodge Sasuke's kick and began forming hand seals. He unleashed a massive fire-style technique in the shape of a great phoenix. Sasuke countered by forming a large fireball, and their attacks collided with a resounding impact. Meanwhile, the kunoichi's match remained evenly matched. Yugito used a blue fireball with the form of a small rat. Karen dodged and then sent golden chains from her back that rushed toward Yugito. Yugito vanished in a puff of smoke and reappeared beneath the earth, striking from below. She briefly dissolved into mud to avoid an incoming water jutsu, then surfaced to continue the match. Karen stepped up and, taking the match more seriously, closed the distance and struck Yugito hard, sending her tumbling. She gathered a Rasengan that glowed a lighter blue and then darkened, and drove it into Yugito's midsection. The hit launched Yugito away, breaking several trees in the training ground. She came to a halt and checked herself, feeling the burn across her stomach from the attack. She bit her arm to trigger a rapid healing response, and the pain eased quickly thanks to Kurama's chakra aiding her recovery. Karin complimented Yugito on her strength. Yugito thanked her and said she had not used her full power, only testing Karin. Karin excused herself to rejoin Menma and Kaneko. Back on the field, Naruto and Sasuke prepared to finish. Sasuke formed Chidori in his left hand while Naruto shaped a Rasengan surrounded by a swirling tornado-like chakra. Sasuke shouted that he would end it with Chidori. Naruto countered with his tornado Rasengan. They charged and collided, their techniques creating a vast dark sphere that shattered much of the training ground. When the smoke cleared, Naruto stood while Sasuke lay unconscious on the ground. Sakura had also managed to best her sensei in combat. Tsunade announced that she had seen enough. She promoted Naruto Namake's Uzumaki, Yugito, Sasuke Uchiha, and Karin Uzumaki to the rank of Jonin of Konoha. She praised Sakura for her effort and encouraged her to keep improving. Sakura responded with determination to continue her training. In the desert, two figures in dark cloaks advanced under red clouds. Deidara teased Sasori about returning to his village, asking if he felt nostalgic. Sasori said he had abandoned Suna long ago and preferred to focus on capturing the One-Tail. Deidara volunteered to go after the One-Tail while Sasori set traps and warned him not to take too long. Deidara promised it would be worth it, created a clay bird, and took to the sky in search of the Kazekage. Meanwhile, in the hidden sand, Gaara muttered about the day he accepted the role of Kazekage. Mountains of paperwork lay before him, an endless administrative burden that tested his patience more than any battle. He remembered Tobirama Senju's shadow techniques and realized they might be adapted to handle paperwork. Inspired, Gaara formed 4 sand clones and set them to the task, grateful in a small, wry way for the inventive solution. The paperwork was being handled at last, and Gaara allowed himself a short, relieved sigh. Gaara looked up from an orange-covered book titled Ika Ika Paradise and asked if anyone had said something. He was a redhead who had been trying to focus on paperwork, which frustrated him. The tailed beast inside him, Shikaku, teased him about his dreams and fantasies, which made Gaara flush with anger. Gaara called for his partner Matsuri. Matsuri answered with a slight blush, and Gaara rose to hold her gently and give her an affectionate kiss. He promised to be with her that evening. An explosion suddenly rang out. Gaara released Matsuri and rushed toward the source while Matsuri cried softly as he left. Gaara hovered on a cloud of sand, irritated, and faced Deidara. Deidara announced his intention to capture the Jinchuriki. He launched his clay birds at Gaara, but Gaara's sand protected him and pursued Deidara through the air. The two clashed fiercely as Deidara kept sending clay constructs, which Gaara countered with precise control of his sand. The fight was long and intense. In the end, the Akatsuki succeeded in taking Gaara and departed, while Kankuro rushed forward to retrieve his brother but was found poisoned and gravely injured by Sasori's handiwork. Naruto Namake's Uzumaki was in his new home with his wife Yugito Nii, his son Menma Namake's Uzumaki, Kurama the 9-tailed fox, Matatabi the 2-tailed cat, and the small Biju Kaneko. Naruto admired the mansion that had once belonged to his parents. Yugito commented that his father had been Hokage and asked about Naruto's new eyes. Naruto had recently removed his eye bandage. He had gained the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and was training to master its abilities. The Biju suddenly became serious. Matatabi reported that they had lost connection with Shikaku. The Jinchuriki grew grave. Naruto gathered Menma and Kaneko and vanished in a yellow flash, Yugito appearing beside him as they arrived in Tsunade's office. Tsunade reacted with concern upon learning that the Kazekage had been kidnapped. Naruto and Yugito entrusted Menma and Kaneko to Tsunade and Shizune before leaving. Tsunade grumbled about the difficulty of watching 2 3-year-olds, unaware of what would come next. At Sunegakure's hospital, Karin Uzumaki worked to extract poison from Kankuro. She stopped when she saw her cousin Naruto and Yugito arrive in a burst of light. Naruto explained what had happened. Deidara had taken Gaara. Kankuro had confronted the Akatsuki and ended up in his current condition. They had found Gaara's trident near Kankuro. An elderly woman entered the room and introduced herself as Chiyo, explaining that Sasori was her grandson and that she would accompany them. Naruto insisted they move quickly. Chiyo gathered her things and set out with the Jinchuriki from Konoha. On the way they encountered Kakashi and Sasuke. Sakura and Ino were on a mission and could not join them. Sasuke remarked that they had arrived late. Naruto replied that he had been busy with the move. Yugito asked if anyone knew where the Akatsuki were. Kakashi detected Deidara's presence nearby and led them toward a cave sealed by a barrier. Naruto prepared a sealing technique and began forming hand seals. The seal on the cave flared and fell away. Yugito told the others to step aside and then launched herself at the entrance, striking the rock with a chakra-charged punch and shattering it. 2 Akatsuki members were revealed. Dara was sitting over Gaara. Deidara greeted them with a mocking smile, taunting the Jinchuriki of 2 and 4 tails and saying that they had saved him the trouble of searching. Naruto and Yugito glared with hatred, arriving too late to prevent what had already happened. Naruto demanded Gaara's return. Deidara told them to come and then used one of his clay creations to envelop Gaara and flew away with him. Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi immediately pursued, while Yugito and Chiyo remained behind to face Sasori. Chiyo told Yugito to stay back, and Yugito said that she would handle the situation while Chiyo intervened only if necessary. Chiyo, though older and wary of her age, agreed not to be a burden. Sasori assumed capturing Yugito would be easy. He had already forced Deidara to pay a heavy price when taking the Kazekage. Sasori opened a mechanism and unleashed a volley of poison projectiles. Yugito summoned Matatabi's power and extended claws to deflect the attack with quick, precise movements. Sasori released wave after wave of projectiles, but Yugito continued to evade and block them with steady skill. Sasori then sent another appendage to strike. Yugito intercepted it and severed it into pieces. Sasori backed away and exhaled a purple smoke that began to surround Yugito. Chiyo shouted Yugito's name in alarm as the smoke closed in. Chiyo watched desperately as a figure appeared behind Sasori and struck him, breaking the puppet Hiriko. Sasori stepped out of the puppet, furious that Hiriko had been destroyed, and revealed that he had not changed in 20 years, leaving Chiyo stunned. Chiyo questioned whether it was really Sasori, and Sasori confirmed it, declaring himself the eternal art. Sasori produced a scroll and unveiled a puppet that Chiyo instantly recognized. The 3rd Kazekage had been missing for years and had been Tsunagekyu's finest. Sasori had long ago turned him into one of his puppets. Yugito recognized the puppet as the 3rd Kazekage and accused Sasori. Sasori coldly affirmed the accusation and threatened that Yugito would soon join him. Sasori's puppet expelled a blast of iron sand mixed with poison. Yugito dodged easily, but more iron sand assaulted her. Yugito countered with a large blue fireball sent towards Sasori, which Sasori partially blocked with iron sand. The puppet assaulted her again, and Yugito dispersed into smoke to reappear behind Sasori, forcing him briefly to retreat as the iron sand reacted in time. Yugito thought quickly that she needed a plan. First destroy the puppet, then attack Sasori directly. Yugito created 2 shadow clones. The clones formed a Rasengan that darkened to navy blue and trailed like a comet of fire, while the original used Matatabi's claws to block the iron sand and leap back. One clone struck the puppet with a fiery Rasengan variant, engulfing the puppet in flames and destroying it. Sasori conceded that the puppet had been destroyed and revealed his greatest work. He removed his Akatsuki cloak to show that he himself was a puppet. Sasori opened his chest to release 100 puppets. Chiyo responded by producing 10 white puppets she had kept, including the ones she had first created. The white puppets rushed forward with swords and began to dismantle Sasori's puppets. Yugito, cloaked in chakra that formed twin tails, slashed through puppets and dodged poisoned Fuma Shuriken. She unleashed a huge blue fireball that burned many of Sasori's puppets, and Sasori countered with fire-emitting tubes from his hands, colliding with her attack and producing a smoky explosion. Chiyo directed her familiar puppets towards Sasori while Yugito continued to press the attack. Yugito surged forward and delivered a powerful strike that made Sasori stagger as if pierced by 2 swords. Sasori acknowledged defeat, declaring that they deserved a reward and warning that in 3 days at the Tamako Bridge he would meet an Orochimaru spy. With that, the version of Sasori fashioned from red sand fell still. Yugito and Chiyo retrieved Sasori's body and returned to the site where Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi had defeated Deidara and recovered Gaara. Gaara had already died, and Chiyo sacrificed herself to revive him, entrusting the future of the shinobi world to Naruto and Yugito. After Chiyo's sacrifice, they returned to Konoha. Yugito expressed concern for Menma and Katsumi, and Naruto reassured her that they were fine but suggested he was more worried about Tsunade and Shizune. Yugito teased Naruto about recent pranks, and Naruto countered with a comment about a recent hair-dyeing incident. As they entered the village, they saw the Hokage's faces painted and the streets filled with bright colors. Tsunade's angry shout echoed through the village as she confronted the children responsible for the decorations. Sasuke, observing the commotion, made a dry comment about Naruto's future marriage, causing both Uchiha and Uzumaki to blush. Inside Tsunade's office, she and Shizune were surprised to find their faces painted. Yugito observed that the pranksters had had their fun, and Tsunade called them demons while Shizune complained that the ANBU base had been painted pink. Jiraiya arrived through the window and joked about not being painted pink. Menma and Katsumi appeared in a flash, their clothes stained with paint and their faces innocent. Menma claimed responsibility for some of the mischief while Katsumi blamed Menma, and both insisted they did not regret their actions. Naruto decided they would deal with punishment later and led everyone away. Kurama and Matatabi escorted Menma and Katsumi to another room while Naruto created a soundproof ceiling barrier for privacy. Yugito suggested they enjoy the evening. Naruto removed his mask and smiled, and the two shared a tender, private moment together before settling down to rest. The night had been eventful, and they had spent it together. The Bijus were watching their daughter and Menma. Both children were mischievous. Their daughter was very cheerful and Menma resembled a young Kakashi except he did not have the Sharingan. Both were asleep, cuddled closely, which annoyed Kurama, but he could do nothing. Naruto emerged from his parents' room wearing his usual clothes and a navy blue mask. He greeted Matatabi and Kurama as he walked into the room. Matatabi returned the greeting in her usual playful tone, and Kurama offered a gruff good morning to the young Uzumaki. Naruto observed Menma and Katsumi together and found the scene tender. He took a small camera from Kami-sama, snapped a photo to keep, and then went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Matatabi commented on how lively the previous night had been, noting the household's bustling energy. Naruto set 6 plates on the table, arranging a simple but hearty breakfast. The little Biju and her son were awakened by the aroma and began to stir. The blonde stepped out of her room, already showered and dressed. Yugito greeted Naruto with a warm kiss and a cheerful good morning. Katsumi and Menma both made faces of mild disapproval at the display, which drew a bemused look from Naruto as he blinked in surprise. In the future they would do the same. After the two Jinchuriki finished breakfast, the toad Sannin entered through the window. Jiraiya told them he would watch the tailed beasts and instructed them to go to the bridge to meet Sasori's spy. Yugito teased him by calling him a pervert as they departed. The tailed beasts vanished in smoke. Naruto and Yugito disappeared in a yellow flash. Days later they encountered Kabuto, who claimed to be Sasori's informant. It turned out to be a trap set by Orochimaru. They followed the trail until they reached one of Orochimaru's strongholds. Naruto ordered the guard to free the prisoners while he took on Orochimaru. Yugito agreed and offered a brief, supportive touch beneath the guard's mask before summoning 100 clones to rush in and free the captives. Orochimaru announced his presence with a cold laugh. Orochimaru taunted Naruto, and Naruto answered with a serious promise that he would end him. Naruto sprang forward and struck Orochimaru, locking them into a high-speed confrontation. Orochimaru shifted into a serpentine form composed of countless white snakes, and the scene flashed into a surreal, crimson sky filled with black clouds. A macabre voice announced that the nightmare had begun. Dark, enormous eyes emerged from the shadows, and a sinister figure pursued Orochimaru relentlessly. Black claws struck and incapacitated him, and Orochimaru screamed as the strange presence closed in. In the real world, Naruto sealed the giant white serpent and then confronted Kabuto, quickly neutralizing him. He deactivated his special eyes to search the compound for more prisoners. Once freed, the captives were offered the choice to start anew or travel to Konoha. Most chose to rebuild their lives, while others followed the Jinchuriki to Konoha. A few days later in Konoha, grief hung over the village. Asuma Sarutobi had fallen at the hands of Haiden of the Akatsuki, leaving Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, and Kurenai devastated. Shikamaru was consumed by the guilt of not being able to save his mentor, and Kurenai mourned the loss of her partner. Naruto felt the weight of responsibility as well, knowing the Akatsuki sought him and Yugito for their tailed beasts. Yugito comforted Naruto, insisting it was not his fault, and Naruto resolved that he would avenge Asuma. When Naruto and Yugito arrived at a meeting, Naruto apologized for their delay. The Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails stood beside Yugito as they appeared before Kakashi, Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji, causing the members of Team 10 to twinge with tension. Kakashi felt a quiet pride in Naruto. Yugito made a brief remark about the Jashinist enemy, and Naruto said they would handle it and that the others should rest. Kakuzu advanced to challenge Naruto, threatening to tear out his heart. Naruto, immersed in an orange-covered book, remained focused and unreadable. Kakuzu demanded not to be ignored and unleashed his monstrous companions. Naruto dodged a barrage of elemental attacks and recognized that each mask among Kakuzu's constructs represented a different element: fire, wind, water, and lightning. A combined fire and wind assault bore down on him, and Naruto allowed it to strike an empty illusion. Two of Kakuzu's constructs collapsed when the real attackers were revealed and countered. Kakuzu reintegrated his hearts, and a mass of thread-like limbs emerged around him as he renewed his assault. He charged in fury, furious that two of his hearts had been destroyed. Naruto prepared a new technique with his Sharingan engaged. He formed a shuriken-shaped variant of the Rasengan in his hand while two clones appeared behind him. The sphere whirred with intense energy and produced a shrill sound that made everyone cover their ears. Kakuzu feared taking a direct hit, but Naruto unleashed his Rasen Shuriken. The technique expanded into a white dome that pierced and overwhelmed Kakuzu's defenses. When the technique dispersed, Naruto closed in and finished the confrontation with a decisive lightning strike, ending Kakuzu's threat. Meanwhile, Yugito faced Haiden. Yugito mocked Haiden by asking if he had appreciated how his companion had fallen, promising that Haiden would face the same fate. Haiden shouted angrily and hurled himself at her, but without acquiring fresh blood he could not complete his ritual. Yugito explained, calmly and sharply, that Haiden's belief in his immortality had made him complacent and prevented him from developing a varied skill set. Relying only on close combat and his ritual left critical openings. Yugito struck Haiden with a strong kick and then unleashed a concentrated, dark blue sphere of chakra. She amplified it into a massive, infernal Rasengan and drove it into Haiden. The technique erupted into a massive, blazing wave that overwhelmed him completely. When the dust settled, Haiden was no longer a threat. Yugito stood solemnly and declared that Asuma had been avenged. Yugito had bound Naruto's hands and feet to the bed and placed chakra-suppressing seals to prevent him from escaping. Kurama could not assist because the Two Tails was occupying Naruto elsewhere, and a special seal on his left eye made the Sharingan useless. Yugito told Naruto to stay calm and that she would take care of the rest. She leaned over and kissed him. The kiss was clumsy, slow, and full of emotion. Naruto was surprised that the person he loved kissed him back, and their lips parted only when they ran out of air. Yugito felt hopeful that his reaction might mean it was mutual. They shared a quiet, NTMT moment. The atmosphere eased and a thoughtful pause followed. Naruto asked Yugito if she would let him have his turn. Yugito smiled at him with a longing look and decided to untie him. Once free, Naruto told Yugito to prepare because he wanted to make her feel cared for. He moved to comfort her gently, cradling her and offering tender gestures. Yugito responded with soft, relieved sounds, lost in the emotional closeness between them. The two held one another, exchanging quiet, affectionate gestures rather than anything explicit. The intensity of the moment remained emotional and NTMT but stayed within the limits of care and consent. What happened next became a warm, private exchange between them, a blending of care and affection that left both visibly affected. They remained together afterward, each processing the complicated feelings the night had stirred. Shizun asked if Kakashi was all right, her concern clear as she looked at Hatake in the hospital. The battle with two Akatsuki operatives had drained him of chakra. If it had not been for Naruto and Yugito, Ino, Shikamaru and Choji might have died. Kakashi admitted he was exhausted from using so much chakra and thanked Naruto and Yugito for their help. Shizun noted how fortunate it was that Naruto and Yugito had arrived and defeated the two Akatsuki. The hospital door opened and Naruto appeared with 4 red-covered books, accompanied by Yugito. Naruto greeted Kakashi and Shizun and set the books on the table. Kakashi asked about the books. Naruto explained that he had decided to become a writer and these were his first 4 stories. Shizun asked Yugito if that bothered her, and Yugito replied that it did not, since they could make use of the ideas later. Naruto and Yugito said their goodbyes and left to rest, the two-tailed beast hosts disappearing from the room. Yugito asked Naruto if they should check on Menma and Katsumi next, and Naruto agreed. Elsewhere, Jiraiya hung upside down, hands tied with a thick rope, his hair and face painted. He cursed at the energetic youngsters around him. Naruto appeared, cut the rope with a shuriken, and Jiraiya fell to the ground. He thanked Naruto, still grumbling. Naruto told the tailed beasts Kurama and Matatabi that he and Yugito had something to do. Matatabi assured them they could go. Later, Naruto appeared before Kakashi, who had been reading a novel written by his younger brother. Kakashi admitted, with a wry smile, that Naruto's story was more interesting than some of Jiraiya's work. Naruto boasted that in less than a year he already had more fans than Jiraiya. Naruto then asked Kakashi if he liked Shizun. Kakashi blushed but remained quiet beneath his mask. Naruto offered to help Kakashi with Shizun, and Kakashi thanked him. Naruto placed his hand on Kakashi's abdomen. A mantle of crimson chakra healed the Jounin's wounds and restored his chakra. Naruto told him to prepare, because that night he would confess his feelings to Shizun. Meanwhile, Yugito and Tsunade teased Shizun about her obvious feelings for Kakashi. Shizun, bright red and stumbling over her words, tried to protest, but Tsunade laughed and Yugito promised they would not accept no for an answer. Knowing them, Shizun sighed and agreed to accept their help. Naruto prepared Kakashi for the evening. Kakashi dressed in a suit and set aside his books. He felt nervous, though he hid it well. Naruto complimented his appearance. When Kakashi arrived, he saw Shizun blushing in a deep black dress. He told her she looked beautiful, and Shizun returned the compliment, saying he looked handsome as well. Kakashi led Shizun to the restaurant where Naruto had reserved a special table. Guy, watching from nearby, thought to himself that Kakashi already had a girlfriend before him and wondered why no one loved him, his mood heavy and dramatic. At the restaurant, Shizun hesitated, worried about the cost, but Kakashi reassured her that money was no concern and that this night was meant to be special for a special person. They entered and sat at the table Naruto had prepared weeks earlier, surrounded by flowers beneath a clear night sky. Their meal began in comfortable silence and gradually shifted into conversation about trivial things. They discovered many shared interests. Outside, Naruto and Yugito observed them. Naruto took notes for his new book while Yugito made sure their plan proceeded smoothly. Naruto thought the situation was a treasure trove of inspiration. After a while, Kakashi rose and knelt before Shizun, presenting a small black box. Inside rested a beautiful deep blue necklace. Kakashi asked her to be his girlfriend. Shizun, overjoyed, accepted. Kakashi stood, placed the necklace around her neck, briefly lifted part of his mask to reveal his smile, and they shared a gentle, affectionate moment together. Chapter 18. At the Uchiha residence, Sasuke Uchiha woke up with Karen Uzumaki, his girlfriend, asleep beside him and holding him so he could not move. Sasuke smiled and shared a brief, tender kiss with her. Karen greeted him good morning, and Sasuke returned the greeting with a small smile. He got up, took his clothes and went to the bathroom to change. After dressing in his usual clothes, he went down to the living room to prepare breakfast while Karen took a shower. Meanwhile, at training field number 10, Naruto had woken early to train in the forest. He needed to master the new power of his eyes. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan drained a lot of chakra. Fortunately, as an Uzumaki and the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, he had reserves. He dispelled the incomplete Susanu's purple armor, then collapsed onto the grass and looked up at the sky. Naruto thought it was time. Yugito had been waiting and told him that it was time for him to return. Naruto agreed and asked for a moment to rest. Yugito smiled. After 5 minutes, he stood and went with his wife to the entrance of Konoha. Half an hour later, 2 hooded figures appeared. Naruto remarked that it was about time they arrived while still holding his Ika Ika Paradise book. The hooded pair explained that they had been discovered and had to escape, and that they had barely made it out. Yugito observed that it was to be expected that sooner or later they would be found and named the two as Itachi and Konan. The hooded figures removed their hoods, revealing their faces. Itachi asked how everyone had been. Naruto responded with the usual updates. Menma and Katsumi were with Kakashi and Shizen. Sasuke remained distant but now had a girlfriend named Karen Uzumaki. No one else knew that Itachi had returned with his partner. Konan called it a surprise and wondered what would happen next. They said there were 2 Akatsuki. Yugito and Itachi were revealed to be spies for Konoha, and Tsunade already knew, so they did not need to worry. The Jinchuriki had entered the village with Itachi and Konan. The villagers were surprised to see 2 Akatsuki in Konoha, but with Naruto and Yugito accompanying them there was little cause for alarm. Some of the men glanced at Konan with open admiration, but Konan fixed them with her Mangekyo Sharingan and they quickly fell silent. Some of the women blushed at the sight of the Uchiha, but Konan's steely look was more than enough to calm the crowd. At Tsunade's office, Naruto explained that Itachi and Konan had been Konoha spies. They had been passing information to Jiraiya, but when they were discovered they had been forced to flee. Naruto noticed Itachi's weakened condition and asked why he had not been told about the illness. Itachi replied that he had not wanted to worry them. Naruto instructed Itachi to lie down on the table. Obediently, the older brother lay down and Naruto placed his hand on his chest. A warm mantle of Kurama's chakra wrapped Itachi, and after about 15 minutes the chakra faded and Itachi felt much better. Naruto said that he had healed Itachi with Kurama's chakra and told him to go see his brother. Itachi thanked him and went to the Uchiha residence, where Sasuke did not expect to see him again. The 2 brothers shared a strong embrace while Konan and Karen watched with gentle smiles. Tsunade thanked Itachi and Konan. The 2 new Konoha ninja shared all the information they had on Akatsuki, which proved very useful to Tsunade. Itachi was revealed to be an ANBU leader and Konan a Jonin under the supervision of Yugito's older brother, since the village still did not completely trust Konan and Itachi despite their service as spies. Naruto handed Itachi a small water tank containing 2 Sharingan eyes, the eyes of Fugaku Uchiha. Naruto explained that obtaining the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan would free Itachi from his illness. Itachi expressed his gratitude, and Tsunade performed the transplant immediately. Meanwhile, the leader of Akatsuki, Pain, the wielder of the Rinnegan, hovered above Konoha. Madara had tasked him with capturing the 2 tails and the 9 tails and the child who possessed a blend of both powers, a 10th-tailed beast, an unforeseen development that complicated his plans. They also intended to capture the child and seal her in the demonic statue of the Outer Path. Pain unleashed a devastating repulsive force, creating an enormous crater and devastating much of the village. He landed to face the 2 panic-stricken Jinchuriki and demanded that the 2 tails, the 9 tails, and the child surrender. The possessed Jinchuriki erupted in furious protest at the thought of their daughter being taken. Itachi was still blind, but by morning he would receive the eternal Mangekyo and regain his sight. Sasuke and Karen protected Menma and Katsumi while Konan went to speak with Nagato. Jiraiya arrived at the scene and confronted Pain. He had been helping evacuate children from the rubble to a shelter before engaging. Yugito challenged Jiraiya, scolding him for his reputation, and Jiraiya replied that he would not allow his students or those under his care to be captured. The paths of pain advanced to confront the Jinchuriki and the Sannin. Jiraiya dodged a massive rhinoceros-like summons and called upon his own old ally, Gamabunta. The summoned animal recognized the presence of the path summons and prepared to fight. Jiraiya moved with swift, practiced precision, landing on the flying summon and striking with a powerful Rasengan that sent the enemy back. The large summon split into multiple forms, and Gamabunta kept one occupied while Jiraiya used his hair to restrain another, hurling it toward an opponent. Then Jiraiya formed a large, intense sphere of fire chakra and struck several of Pain's paths, consuming them in a flash of flame. He winced at his burned hand and warned himself not to use that technique without mastery of Sage Mode. The summoned creatures disappeared. Yugito fought fiercely as well, cutting apart incoming projectiles and driving back a path. One of the enemy summons grabbed her, draining chakra, but she gathered natural energy and unleashed a burst that broke the hold and repelled the enemy. Naruto launched black flames in an attempt to burn Pain, but the leader dodged them. Naruto then leapt at Pain and struck him with a powerful kick, starting a close-quarters fight. Pain countered with another repulsive force, attempting to repel Naruto and drive him away, and then opened a massive fire attack that struck one of the paths. Pain surveyed the Jinchuriki as Naruto continued to fight. Naruto's chakra flared into a protective form as he resisted an attempt to crush him. Yugito entered her Bijou mode and launched a tailed beast bomb at one of Pain's paths, and Naruto summoned all his strength to help. The pair disappeared together in a flash and reappeared, regrouping with their allies. Konan, who had been marked by Pain's movements, found Jiraiya and confronted Nagato. Jiraiya told Nagato that he had never imagined he would be responsible for this devastation. After a tense exchange, Nagato used his remaining power to revive many of those who had died in Konoha. Then, in an unexpected and solemn gesture, Nagato entrusted his Rinnegan to Naruto to keep it safe from Madara. Naruto placed Nagato's eyes into a small water tank for safekeeping and looked to Konan. Konan warned that with Nagato gone, Madara would search for Nagato's eyes, and if they were not in Amigakure, he would slaughter everyone there. She said she would escort the people of Amigakure to Konoha. Jiraiya insisted that he would not allow her to travel alone. He would accompany and protect her. Konan thanked him, and Jiraiya cautioned the others to take care while he was away. Naruto reminded him to be careful, since no one knew Madara's next move, and Jiraiya replied that if he had to give his life to protect his students, he would accept that duty. The Sannin smiled. He did not begrudge his pupil for choosing a darker path. He felt no regret, only pride in the strong woman Konan had become. Yugito warned him to be careful, calling him an old troublemaker, having grown fond of the Sannin. Jiraiya ruffled her hair and laughed, saying he could not leave yet and still had to watch over the next generation. The blue-eyed boy laughed as well, noting that their master's mischievous ways would never change. Jiraiya said his goodbyes and began to walk beside Konan, who carried Nagato and Yahiko, both fallen in the recent battle. Naruto took out an orange-covered book while Yugito opened a dark blue volume titled The Legend of the Blue Fire Cat. Naruto also had another titled The Legend of Naruto Uzumaki, the Copy Ninja. Both began to read as they walked toward the Leaf Village. In the council chamber, the feudal lord asked why he had been summoned, surveying the gathered leaders, Shikaku, Choza, Inoichi, Sasuke Uchiha, Itachi Uchiha, and Hayashi Hyuga. Shikaku apologized for the summons and explained that they needed to choose a sixth village leader. Tsunade Senju remained unconscious after the attack by Pain, and they did not know when she would awaken. With the village in danger, they needed someone to take on the responsibility of protecting it. When the feudal lord asked for recommendations, Hayashi recommended Naruto Uzumaki, noting that Naruto was not only the host of the Nine Tails and a student of Jiraiya, one of the three legendary ninjas, but also had inherited the eyes of Shisui Uchiha along with the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, making him well-suited for the role. The feudal lord reflected on Naruto's lineage as the son of Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash, and Kushina Uzumaki, a fiery spirit of the village, and commented that Naruto's appointment would be interesting. At Ichiraka Ramen, Naruto ate with his beloved wife, his son, and the small-tailed beast who, while not needing to eat, had picked up Naruto's fondness for ramen. Kakashi arrived, and Yugito asked what he wanted. Kakashi said that the council was calling for Naruto. Naruto told Yugito to stay with Menma and Katsumi and said he would be right back, then disappeared in a flash of yellow. Yugito, Menma, and Katsumi continued their meal. Naruto approached the council reading his orange book with an indifferent expression, and the feudal lord announced that, from that day forward, Naruto Uzumaki would serve as the 6th village leader. The news surprised Naruto. Had his childhood dream finally come true? He was extremely happy, though his smile was hidden by his mask. Naruto expressed his gratitude in his usual way. Yugito, Katsumi, and Menma had been summoned to the Hokage's office without knowing why. When they opened the doors, they saw Naruto wearing the Hokage cloak. Yugito asked if he was truly the Hokage, and Naruto confirmed it. Yugito congratulated him and approached to offer heartfelt congratulations. Matatabi and Kurama escorted Menma and Katsumi away, leaving the Jinchuriki alone in the office. Yugito then separated and created a barrier around the room so no one could enter or leave. No one could hear what would happen next inside Naruto's office. The Raikage was furious. His adopted younger brother Killer Bee, the Jinchuriki of the Hachibi, had been kidnapped by a figure wearing an orange spiral mask and an Akatsuki cloak who called himself Madara Uchiha. The Raikage feared that the legendary ninja thought to have fallen in the battle at the Valley of the End had returned to lead Akatsuki and orchestrate the hunt for the Bijou. He feared Yugito might be next. The Raikage ordered Mabui to send messengers to all the villages and to convene a meeting of the Kage. Mabui immediately acknowledged the order. Meanwhile in Konoha, several shadow clones handled paperwork while the original sat atop the Hokage office reading his favorite Ika Ika Paradise, reflecting on recent events. Konan had traveled with Jiraiya to Amigakure to escort villagers and former shinobi to Konoha. Konan and Jiraiya had confronted Madara there. Konan's knowledge of his abilities had helped them return safely and unharmed. Naruto used his talent for persuasion to convince Konoha's residents and returned shinobi to accept the newcomers from Amigakure into the village. Naruto asked Itachi how his new eyes were. Itachi, leader of an ANBU squad responsible for guiding former root agents as they learned to feel and express emotions, reported that his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was nearly mastered. Sasuke had been helping others learn to use the Mangekyo, and Itachi was progressing well despite not being born an Uchiha. Itachi thanked Naruto for asking and said Konan was resting with Karin and Sasuke. He added that shinobi from Kumogakure wished to see Naruto. Naruto closed his orange-covered book and vanished in a puff of smoke. The Kumogakure delegation was led by Samui, accompanied by Karui and Omoi, who had previously been in Konoha with Yugito during the Chunin exams and to arrange a political engagement between Yugito and Naruto Namake's Uzumaki. Karui reacted with shock and anger at the news. The redhead reacted angrily, pointing at the masked blonde and accusing him of being the pervert Hokage. Itachi activated his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, causing the Kumogakure shinobi to flinch. Itachi asserted that the matter concerned the Hokage. Naruto admitted that he disliked being formal. The Uchiha deactivated his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and looked seriously at the Kumogakure shinobi. Yugito asked what had brought them there, smiling warmly at her friends. She hugged Omoi, Samui, and Karui. They returned the embrace and then turned to Naruto. Samui reported that Madara Uchiha had captured Killer Bee and had called a meeting of the 5 Kage. The Jinchuriki and Itachi froze at the news. Yugito was angry because she regarded Bee like an adopted uncle, and Naruto was furious because the person who had used Kurama to attack Konoha had dared to capture his fellow Jinchuriki. They were not blood-related, but they considered themselves like brothers because of the heavy burdens they shared and the suffering of their childhoods. Naruto instructed that the Raikage be informed that the Hokage would attend the meeting and that Bee was still alive, but it would take time to extract the 8 tails, since only Kisame and Zetsu remained to guard him. Omoi expressed relief that Bee-sensei was alive. Yugito urged them to go since their nephews wanted to see them, and then she and her friends left Naruto's office, leaving him alone with Itachi. Itachi emphasized the seriousness of the situation. Akatsuki already had 7-tailed beasts, and Naruto needed to learn to control the power of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan as soon as possible. Naruto insisted he understood and that, with perfect control of Kurama and combining it with Susanoo, he would be far stronger. Itachi warned him not to be overconfident, since they did not know what tricks Madara might have. Naruto agreed. Naruto created 20 clones to handle paperwork while he and Itachi left for training field number 10 to accelerate their mastery of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The trio set out for the Land of Iron, where the Kage meeting was to be held. The samurai leader declared that with all the Kage present, the meeting should begin. Gaara was surprised to see that his old friend was the Hokage. Mei glanced at Naruto and found him very attractive, though she noted he was married. The other Kage were not surprised, having seen Naruto's power during the Chunin exams. Even without a Sharingan, he was exceptionally strong. The meeting convened to discuss a very serious matter, Akatsuki. The assembled leaders fell silent at the mention. Akatsuki had already taken 6 of the 9-tailed beasts, and they could not allow them to obtain the 2 tails, the 8 tails, and the 9 tails. Gaara reported that Deidara had stolen the 1 tail, noting that Akatsuki was full of people with astonishing abilities. Mei reminded everyone that the civil war had been caused by an enigmatic masked figure known as Madara Uchiha, who had manipulated the 4th Mizukage, Yagura, to provoke the conflict. 6 years earlier, thanks to the efforts of Yugito, Nii, and Naruto, that war had ended. Inoki warned that Akatsuki had inspired fear for many years and that they now faced a great threat to the shinobi world. Naruto explained that Akatsuki had originated in the village hidden in the rain and had begun as a peaceful organization seeking peace through words and good deeds. It had been founded by Yahiko, Nagato, and Konin, former students of Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin. According to Naruto, the figure posing as Madara Uchiha had manipulated events from the shadows, deceiving Hanzo of the Salamander into killing Yahiko and leading Nagato, the wielder of the Rinnegan, to reform Akatsuki into a criminal organization that hunted tailed beasts. Naruto said that the real problem was the Uchiha who called himself Madara Uchiha and that Madara had been steering Akatsuki to gather the tailed beasts to revive the 10 tails. Naruto did not yet know Madara's motive for reviving the 10 tails, but he insisted it could not be good. They had to stop Madara before he achieved his aim. The samurai leader asked Naruto to explain what the 10 tails was. Naruto's eyes shifted from blue to red, displaying the Kyuubi's eyes to everyone except the Raikage and Naruto's bodyguards. Kurama, speaking through Naruto, reassured the leaders that he would not harm them and requested permission to speak. The Kage and their guards relaxed. Gaara asked the tailed beast to explain the 10 tails. Kurama through Naruto described the tailed beasts as chakra entities, 9 powerful and wise creatures. The 10 tails was the fusion of those 9 beasts, a vast beast without human emotion. Madara Uchiha sought to become the 10 tails Jinchuriki and thus become the new sage of 6 paths. Kurama said he did not know why Madara wanted that power, but it could not be good, and they needed to stop him before he succeeded. Suddenly, everyone turned to see the masked figure seated in a corner of the hall. The Kage's guards moved to stand before their leaders. Naruto confronted the masked figure, and Madara demanded that the remaining Jinchuriki be handed over, threatening violence if they refused. Itachi declared that they would not hand anyone over in Madara's dreams. Mei warned that he would have to kill them all to reach the Jinchuriki. The Raikage stated he would not surrender B and Yugito. Madara revealed that he commanded an army of more than 100,000 white Zetsu and already controlled 6-tailed beasts. He demanded to know what the gathered forces had to oppose him. Naruto listed their strengths: 3 Jinchuriki, 2 of them former students of Jiraiya, the Jinchuriki of the 9 tails possessing the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and the powers of both Uchiha and Uzumaki, and 5 villages willing to fight for the peace of the shinobi world. He declared that the Great Shinobi Alliance would stand against Madara. Madara announced the beginning of the 4th Great Ninja War and claimed that all would perish under his will. Inevitable 75. The war had begun. The Shinobi Alliance stood against Madara Uchiha, who commanded over 100,000 white Zetsu and vast battalions of reanimated soldiers, along with 6-tailed beasts. The Great Alliance fielded 3 Jinchuriki, 2 of them former students of Jiraiya. Naruto bore Kurama and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, possessing tremendous power. The last two Uchiha, a pureblood Uzumaki, and more than 1,000,000 shinobi were ready to give their lives to protect what they loved most. Naruto used his Kurama mode clones to spread across the battlefields, helping shinobi in different sectors to hunt down Zetsu. Thanks to Kurama's chakra, Naruto was uniquely able to detect Zetsu imposters disguised as shinobi and to assist in sealing reanimated ninja. Yugito Nii, carrier of the two tails, fought beside Killer Bee. While Bee faced a former Jinchuriki, Yugito contended with a revived shinobi from Kumogakure who used a magnet-style ability. Contact with metal threatened to turn her into a living magnet, so she avoided any metallic contact. The blonde struggled but ultimately managed to seal her opponent. Kakashi and Zabuza found themselves in trouble when 6 swordsmen of the Hidden Mist were revived. Haku aided his father against 3 of them, while Kisame Hashigaki proved especially troublesome until Madogai opened the 7th gate, managing to seal Kisame. Around the front lines, revived forces were being dealt with swiftly, but Madara still held hidden tricks. Itachi faced the consequences of his past. He stood before the parents of the clan he had destroyed and could not bear to meet their eyes. Konan, understanding his torment, fought to support him. While Konan engaged Itachi's mother, Itachi fought his father with tears and the greatest willpower, intending to seal him. Meanwhile, the younger Uchiha had captured 5 Zetsu. With Orochimaru's help, Edo Tensei revived the 4 previous Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki to aid the war effort. Naruto greeted his parents with relief as they arrived on the field. Minato Namikaze and Kushina stepped forward to help. Kurama demanded that Minato give the other half of the beast to Naruto, and Minato complied, restoring Kurama to its whole form. The revived Hokage engaged the monstrous Ten Tails while Minato and Kushina confronted Obito Uchiha. The remaining Hokage, together with Yugito and Killer Bee, did their best to stall the Ten Tails. Madara focused on Naruto, recognizing him as the Jinchuriki of the 9 Tails. He was surprised to see that Naruto possessed the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Clearly an Uchiha had gifted those eyes. Madara felt the combined power of the Ten Tails, the revived Hokage, and the rest of the Shinobi Alliance trying to stop the Ten Tails. His plan was to take the 9 Tails from Naruto, then capture the 2 Tails and the 8 Tails to complete the 10 Tails, become the new Sage of 6 Paths, and enact the Eye of the Moon plan. Madara readied himself and activated his Rinnegan while Naruto held the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. An epic clash between 2 godlike figures was about to erupt. Madara studied Naruto with a hard gaze, astonished that the 9 Tails Jinchuriki had such powerful eyes. Naruto deactivated his Sharingan briefly and challenged Madara, telling him to prove himself by serving as a warm-up. Kurama warned Naruto not to underestimate Madara. Naruto explained to Kurama that he was getting used to being whole again and that using the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Susanoo together was different now. Madara charged to the center of the field and collided with Naruto. Naruto struck with a kick that Madara blocked with his forearm, retaliating with a kick that sent one of the revived Hokage back. Golden chakra chains extended from Naruto's back, and Madara used his gunbai to block them. A massive surge of power rolled across the battlefield as Naruto entered Kurama mode. Madara activated his Rinnegan and countered with a Taijutsu barrage. Naruto answered in kind, their clash causing widespread destruction across the plain. Madara observed the 9 Tails' power and acknowledged Naruto's strength. The two traded blows, each testing the other, then both shifted into more serious modes. Madara formed a dark blue aura around an immense Susanoo while Naruto's Susanoo took on a green hue with a red yin-yang symbol on its chest. Madara's 4 swords attacked, and Naruto used his Susanoo's arms to defend, then created a Rasen Shuriken within the Susanoo and launched it. Madara absorbed the attack, and both prepared to escalate further. Madara entered his perfected Susanoo, which took him by surprise with its unique weaponry. Naruto remembered the power of the eyes he carried and pushed forward. The ninja copy charged, driving a lance into Madara's Susanoo and forcing him to retreat. Naruto's Susanoo materialized fully, kicked Madara away, and the Uchiha launched a furious assault with his twin swords. The two continued their fierce, non-graphic, high-energy battle, each matching the other blow for blow as the war raged around them. Naruto's spear was cloaked in silver flames, and a strike forced his opponent to recoil. The Uzumaki discarded Madara's swords, unfolded wings, and rose into the sky. He raised his hand toward the clouds. Naruto summoned Kirin, and a vast black lightning dragon descended and struck Madara before he could react. Madara answered that he could play that game too. The legendary Uchiha combined his swords and lifted them skyward, drawing a torrent of lightning and redirecting it at Naruto. The blonde landed hard on the ground. Kurama urged Naruto to finish it and warned that Obito had absorbed the 10 tails and was now its host. Naruto mentally asked Kurama how long they would have. Kurama answered 5 minutes, explaining that fusing Susanoo with himself was difficult to control, especially now that it was complete. Naruto's Susanoo changed dramatically, taking the form of a great 9-tailed orange fox. A heavy armor enveloped Kurama, and the fusion altered from orange to green, similar to the combination of Sasuke's perfect Susanoo and Naruto's Bijou mode, bearing a red yin-yang on its chest. In its hands were 2 enormous green spears. 9 large Odama Raisengans formed along the tails, and the spears burned with silver flame, shocking Madara with Naruto's overwhelming power. Naruto declared that it was over and charged. Golden chains bound Madara's Susanoo, allowing the 9 Odama Raisengans to strike it and then the spears to smash into Madara, shattering his Susanoo. Naruto completed the sealing technique Uzumaki 8 trigram seal and sealed the legendary Uchiha into a massive black scroll. Exhausted, Naruto collapsed to the ground. Minutes later he recovered, stored the scroll in a sealing scroll, and left to stop Obito. When he saw Obito, the copy ninja asked what had happened to him. Obito's left eye was no longer a Sharingan but a Rinne Sharingan with 9 tomo around the pupil, radiating a far greater aura. Sasuke pointed out that someone wanted to speak to Naruto and indicated a figure conversing with Yugito and Matatabi. They recognized him as Hagoromo, the sage of 6 paths and the father of Kurama. Hagoromo greeted them calmly. Kurama emerged from Naruto in human form and greeted Hagoromo warmly. Hagoromo said he was pleased to see Kurama and expressed regret at not meeting his granddaughter Matatabi's descendant, but said that would have to wait. Naruto asked Hagoromo why he had come. Hagoromo explained that he would grant Naruto the power of his son Ashura because Naruto was Ashura's reincarnation, and because Naruto already possessed a Sharingan he would be given a Rinne Sharingan like Sasuke's. Hagoromo then bestowed Ashura's power upon Naruto. Naruto's left eye changed, becoming a Rinne Sharingan that matched the right in potency. Hagoromo wished them luck in defeating Obito and freeing his sons from him. Naruto acknowledged the new power inwardly and vowed to rescue Hagoromo's sons and revive the Jinchuriki who had died at the hands of the Akatsuki. The copy ninja entered Ashura mode, radiating strong power, and Yugito shifted into Bijou mode. Obito used his truth-seeking orbs to shield himself from a massive fireball. Naruto formed a Rasengan and struck Obito, sending him flying. Yugito unleashed a large Bijudama that rolled toward Obito but did little damage. Sasuke remarked that it was time to act. He enveloped himself in a dark purple aura and formed a great samurai Susanoo with 2 swords and 2 wings. Naruto, wrapped in green aura and combined with Kurama, formed a gigantic 9-tailed fox samurai whose 2 spears replaced swords. Sasuke noted the power of Naruto's Susanoo, and Naruto thanked Sasuke before they turned their focus to Obito. Obito declared that they could not defeat him and urged them to surrender. Yugito retorted defiantly that there was no question of surrender. Yugito launched another Bijudama that again failed to hurt Obito. The 2 allies then flew toward Obito with their weapons. Obito created a massive DNA-like sword to block the assault and struck back, forcing them to retreat. Naruto warned Sasuke that ninjutsu alone would not be enough and that they needed senjutsu. Naruto's eyes gained a reddish pigment, fox ears and a long tail appeared as he completed fox sage mode. Naruto enveloped his spears in orange natural energy and rushed Obito. Their spears clashed with Obito's legendary sword. Obito's blade shattered, and he absorbed the full force of Naruto's strike. 9 Odama Raisengans formed in Kurama's tails, which took on an orange hue, while Naruto's left hand became charged with black energy, shaping a Chidori. Sasuke did the same. Yugito, in Bijou Sage mode, created a Rasenbijidama of blue fire infused with natural energy. Naruto combined Sage mode with Super Otama Razengans and Kirin. Sasuke added Kirin. Yugito released her Rasenbijidama. Two massive electric dragons descended from the sky, one black and one blue, and the blue Rasenbijidama joined the assault along with the 9 Otama Razengans and the black flames of Amaterasu from both Sasuke and another attacker. All those attacks struck Obito at once, forcing him backward. Naruto appeared before Obito with his 9 tails and extracted the tailed beasts from him, causing Obito to collapse, weakened. The tailed beasts cheered that they were free, thanking Naruto. Naruto smiled and returned to his normal eye state, as did Sasuke. The Bijou conversed among themselves. Kakashi spoke with Obito nearby. Hagoromo, Naruto, and Sasuke stood together to resurrect the fallen Jinchuriki. They performed Rinne Tensei, and 5 souls rose from the ground as the former Jinchuriki were revived. After a brief conversation, the revived Jinchuriki agreed to return to their Bijou and begin new lives in Konoha. Fu decided to go to Konoha with Naruto and Yugito to start over. The 4th Mizukage, Yagura, felt he had nothing left to do and accompanied Fu out of curiosity. With the war over, they began rebuilding. 15 years passed since the 4th Great Ninja War. Naruto Uzumaki, now the 2nd copy ninja and leader of the Shinobi Alliance, had earned the respect and fear of the entire world. He had become a legendary ninja who had defeated Madara Uchiha and faced the Jinchuriki of the 10 Tails, emerging victorious. The 10 Tails stood beside his rival and brother Sasuke Uchiha and beside Yugito Nii, the Jinchuriki of the 2 Tails known throughout the shinobi world as the Fire Cat for her affinity with flame. Yagura and Fu, 2 Jinchuriki who had decided to start over, began a new life in Konoha. They fell in love, established a stable relationship, and Yagura helped Naruto with paperwork. Yagura and his partner married and had 2 children, a daughter, Fuka, who resembled her mother, and a son, Ryu, who took after his father. Kurama, the beast often called the reincarnation of hatred and one of the most powerful tailed beasts, thundered after Menma Namikaze, the eldest son of Naruto. Menma was an 18-year-old who bore a strong likeness to his father in youth, though not the Uchiha eyes. He had recently begun a relationship with Katsumi Otsutsuki, and Kurama, protective of his daughter, wanted to stop the relationship by any means necessary. Menma pleaded for calm and asked to talk things over. Kurama answered that he would only be calm once Menma was dead. Kurama launched several powerful energy blasts, and Menma narrowly evaded 4 of them. The chase and attacks had been going on for hours, but the beast's attempts to end the confrontation had not succeeded. Matatabi, weary of Kurama's fury, intervened and ordered him to stop. Golden chains then restrained Kurama. Naruto's younger daughter, Kushina Namikaze Uzumaki, who closely resembled her mother, used an Uzumaki sealing technique to help contain the situation. Menma thanked Kushina for saving him and took out an orange-covered book. He had adopted a fondness for certain novels that Naruto had shared with him, a habit that made Kakashi and Jiraiya smile at the continuity of small, odd traditions. Kushina teased, half-joking, that perhaps they should let Kurama teach Menma a lesson. Suddenly a blue blur tackled Menma and pulled him into a tight embrace. Katsumi, a Nico with blue hair and twin blue-black tails, had arrived and clung to him in relief. Kurama continued to rage against his bonds, calling Menma a brat as he struggled to break free. Katsumi removed Menma's mask and greeted him with affection. Elsewhere, the legendary Sannin Jiraiya chased after Kaiser Uchiha, son of Itachi Uchiha and Konan, who had been spending time with a young girl named Kagami Senju. Jiraiya pursued Kaiser, concerned about the situation and determined to intervene, and Naruto joined the pursuit, protective of Kagami as if she were a younger sister. Kaiser insisted he had no regrets as he fled from the 2 determined adults. In the Hokage Tower, Yugito and Tsunade watched the commotion below. Yugito observed that some things never changed, and Tsunade agreed, amused to see the village's usual chaos play out once more. It was, without doubt, another ordinary day in Konoha.